The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 149. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Somebody's talking fast. Let's get through this.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo.
Brian Manjoma.
The world is fucking crazy.
Yes, it is, my friend. Brett Murdoch, the returning one.
Hey, everybody.
And Adam Vale.
Hello, fellow humans.
By the way, the reason I was talking fast is because I fucked up with the intro and I forgot to unmute myself, so I had to make up that time. You know what I'm saying? All right, man. We're back with another show. So we got a lot of, administrator notes to begin with. So let's get to it. First, Throwdown is on Twitch, baby. It's happened. You know, we've been running some tests during the weekend, and we're there, and we had a pretty successful one last night with GTA, man. Shit is crazy right now. Let me tell you about GTA. Now, Brett, here's the part where you're gonna, because Brett was asking me, hey, how is Destiny? I wouldn't know because the motherfucking game keeps crashing on me, man. Ain't that about a bitch, you know? So originally we are gonna do a Destiny stream on Wednesday when the game, I was gonna say Tuesday, Wednesday when the game came out. We got half an hour in until my shit started just crashing. So we're like, all right, you know what? Since this shit is broken, let's just stream some GTA to give the people something, right? And you know what happens with GTA, man? You get into that shit, it's like, fuck, I guess we're back on GTA now, you know? So we want to, you know, hopefully get Brian and Brett in there too. We'll have the whole crew in that shit, you know?
Right? You were loving those stunts. You were surprised by them.
Adam, you didn't like those stunts though, man.
I didn't like the bike I was using with those damn stunts. See, that was the thing. It's like, I mean, you guys had all the best of the best. I was using some bullshit. I don't know, what bike were you using, Carlos? Because you used some of the generic ones, right? Or
yeah, I used I forgot, but they were the generic ones too. Because I know Chris was talking about having custom ones, and I didn't see any custom ones.
Well, I have a few custom bikes. Like an affordable custom bike that's really good in the game is the Body 801. So buy that and enhance it, and it's really good and it's cheap.
The Body 801. I'll look that up.
Yeah.
Because right now, the only two like bought games, in-game bought ones where I had is the Vortex and the Western Daemon, which is
oh, that's a chopper.
Yeah, that's a chopper one. So those two, and they did not bode well in the damn stunts. So
none of that. So yeah, we're gonna be doing a big push to okay, on Twitch. We're mostly gonna be doing you know, gaming shit. When YouTube shits the bed, that day is coming. Then we're probably going to move over there, but we're still going to like simulcast both that shit at the same time. We're using restreaming or whatever. So with that, we're going to be able to give both of you guys, you know, both sets of audiences the show. But eventually, we're just going to go more to Twitch eventually if YouTube doesn't get its act together. Because again, I'm just going to name names right now. I saw Jack this week alone. Jack Move Johnny, Kevin Plays Games, and Eric Cuts. All of their shit got demonetized, and all they do is stream games, right? And in the case of Erica and Kevin, they're clean. They don't curse or nothing, right? They got hit. It's just a matter of time until we get hit too, you know? So it's bullshit, but fortunately for us, we're a gaming channel, so we have a very big alternative, you know? Some of the smaller channels, I kind of feel sorry for them. If they're just doing news and politics, they're going to be fucked on YouTube, you know?
We should post links to those guys too.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Twitches, yeah.
You know, so yeah, please follow us over on Twitch. We're at Throwdown Show on Twitch. You know, it's good stuff. So that's the first part. I also want to give a shout out to not forgetting the guy, Jack, I think his name is. He won the Sonic Mania thing. I'm sending out tomorrow, dude. I don't want to keep you waiting, you know. So Zach Attack is his name. So congratulations to him. And this is going to be interesting. He's also the first guy asking this question here. I actually want to give a shout out to Damien, man. Like, you guys know Damien, not the biggest fan of Throwdown, but in his own weird way, he does support us. But I want to give him a shout out because, you know, he lives in the Virgin Islands. They got hit bad by the fucking hurricane. You know, he sent me pictures. Shit is fucked up over there. So shout out to Damien and you know, the Virgin Island Throwdown fans. I know we got some cats on there that listen to us. So hope you guys recover. You know, shit is crazy right now, you know? And I think that's going to do it for now. So with that, let's start these questions, man. Oh, also, I got to remember, okay, if you're listening to the show after we've aired, leave us questions for next week's show in the comment section. And you guys watching us live, do me a favor, no questions tonight. We got plenty as it is. So just sit back, relax, and just, you know, enjoy the show. All right, let's get into it, man. Mr. Damian Percival asking his first question. All right. Over the past few weeks, Michael Pachter has made some statements regarding the pre-order sales about, and about Windows Central. My question is, do you think Michael Pachter, had to make those comments to defend his claim that the Xbox One X will not sell well because of the price point? Michael Pachter's been saying, you know, a bunch of stuff about the Xbox lately, but the question is interesting because Michael Pachter just recently said that he believes the Xbox One X is going to outsell the PlayStation 4 Pro. So, you know, if Damien's trying to say that Michael Pachter is trying to justify his statements about the Xbox One not selling, I don't know if that's true because he literally just said the Xbox One X is going to outsell the Pro this holiday. You know, what do you guys think?
Anything is possible. We'll see. We'll see. Right now, I think there was just a lot of hype because people wanted that Scorpion edition, edition. You know, I mean, and that's the main thing right there. It was special. It was very limited. So let's see when the regular one comes out, if people still come out for that.
Yeah.
Let me just say this about Michael Pachter.
Right.
Like, Michael Pachter is not a fanboy. He might have a preference, but he doesn't spew into the fanboy politics. The dude makes predictions, the safest predictions he can, because that's his job. He doesn't go out on a limb with his predictions. He doesn't use any biases to come up with predictions. He uses like lowest common denominator predictions to throw out so he can say, oh, look, I got this right. I predicted this. Oh, someone posts an article. Michael Pachter predicted this and he was right. That's the business he's in.
Yeah.
Hence why we call him Captain Obvious.
Yeah. But I'm glad you said that though, because a lot of these guys are now saying that Michael Pachter's a Sony pony.
I mean, did you listen to did anybody listen to his ass last year? Him saying how much the PlayStation 3 would fail and all this other shit.
The Pro.
No. I mean, I'm talking about last generation.
Okay, yeah, he said that. Yeah.
You know how the PlayStation has failed. Sony needs to do something. Blah 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 blah. Number one, the thing about Michael Pachter is he says things based on numbers and what's going on out there. If the numbers say this is doing well, then that will continue. And the thing about predictions is even if everybody remembers when you're right, but nobody remembers when you were wrong.
Do you mean the other way around?
Yeah, everybody remembers when you're wrong. You never remember when you're right.
But yeah, because he's actually been right about a lot of stuff too, but no one ever talks about that.
Nobody talks about it. So, you know, I just say, you know, he's in that weather forecaster sort of position.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's right. You know,
it doesn't really matter if the weather, the weather forecaster. All that matters is they're right some of the time, but they don't need to be right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we said what we need to about Michael Pachter. So moving on to someone that's been missing for a long time, man. Mr. Fern Gully is back, man.
Has he come back from the Lorraine forest?
Maybe he has, man. So he goes, your boy is back, and this gaming shit is crazy, I see. So his first question is, hot on the heels of Destiny 2's release, a lot of talk about exclusive content being anti-consumer is circulating. My question is, who started this whole quote-unquote timed exclusive shit anyways? I think we all know.
It's been around for a long time, though. That's even from the Xbox 360 and PS3 era. I mean, Grand Theft Auto, for example. Remember the DLC, the Allocate Tony and Lost in It? That was like a year exclusive or some shit.
Yeah, and then the Call of Duty games, you know, they got the
Call of Duty. Yeah, I mean,
it's
always been that.
I don't know who started it first, but I think we could say Microsoft popularized it.
Microsoft started it first.
Did they?
It was their direct response to not having as many in-house studios producing games as Sony did, so they were buying more exclusive content. They leveraged their wallets instead of their creative studios. And at the time, it wasn't a huge deal, but it set a giant precedent that still bleeds into this day.
Okay, so let's say they popularized it, because remember, we had shit like Nintendo getting Resident Evil 4 before everybody else, shit like that. But yeah, Microsoft definitely popularized it for sure, because like you said, they didn't have any games of their own, so they had to do this shit instead. So yeah, Microsoft. I don't really think there's a other answer there. I
don't even want to say it's not that they didn't have any games of their own, because that sounds awfully harsh. I think it's just more. It was another way to do business. It wasn't as cut and dry as it is now. It was just another way to do business. They were essentially, instead of owning their own studios, they outsourced a lot of labor to, pay third-party studios to make their stuff exclusive and help them develop stuff for it. It's back then it wasn't nearly as bastardized as it is now, but it was just kind of another way to do business. But yeah, if we're linking it all the way back to where it started and where it kind of exploded from, just kind of a thing that happened now and then to a standardized industry-wide practice, it started at Microsoft. Not talking shit, just that's just facts, man. I lived through that shit. I saw it happen.
Pretty much. I don't think anybody can really dispute that.
They did it. They did a lot of it last generation, but because they were essentially for a good while over the head start over PlayStation. They had that. They were the only game in town.
Pretty much. All right, I think we pretty much answered that one. So we'll move on here. This is an interesting one. We kind of got this question before, but there's a little bit of a twist on it. So he goes, "How do you feel about Don Mattrick now? Some feel Phil Spencer is actually worse, saying stuff like, at least Don's 360 days were way better than this."
How long did he exist during the 360 days? A whole week?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Don Mattrick. People give Don Mattrick credit for 360, and that's bullshit. That shit was set in motion way before he sat down in that seat.
Yeah, and then he screwed it all up with one speech at E3. Like, he deserves no credit for anything. He was a terrible head of Xbox. He's it's questionable if he's even human.
Oh shit!
On that alone, Phil Spencer beats him out. Okay, you guys are ridiculous.
Phil's been with the company for years.
Yeah, again, it's just not funny because you're right. I think they think that Don Mattrick was with the 360 at the beginning, right? So they're like, "Hey, Don Mattrick was the head during this 360 days, and look at it now. He was the guy that helped it." It's like, no. That's not how it was. Does anybody
even remember the guy who was before?
They don't. Nobody knows their history anymore, man. So yeah, it's stupid. It's fucking dumb. Let's just be honest. All right, moving on here to another returning one, Mr. Phantom Vash, man.
Where you been?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so his first question is, which Michelle Ancel game will release first? Beyond Good and Evil 2 or Wild?
Oh, okay. I don't know what Wild is. So.
Wild is
that game with the giants in it, right?
Yeah. The one with the snake lady?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Brian, which one do you think is going to come out first, man?
Snake lady.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go with Wild. I think that's gonna come out before Beyond.
I'll go with Wild also, only because they got people excited with a very fancy cutscene, right? That game is probably 2 years out at least.
Yeah.
With Wild, I think they're a lot closer. I would assume.
Wait, for Beyond Good and Evil 2, they actually had gameplay.
Where?
There was gameplay for that shit that they revealed.
Was that co-op shit?
No, it was that one thing. It was like it was showing off the open world, and there was this. You're playing that monkey character. And they were showing off like how you can land on most things in the environment and all kinds of other shit.
I didn't see that. I watched all the conferences.
That was something that was out there. So
all right, I'll have to.
I thought that was a demonstration of the engine rather than gameplay.
Yeah, it was more a demonstration of the engine, but that's more than we've seen of Wild.
It was yeah. They did show in engine gameplay. So let's say Beyond Good and Evil.
Maybe they're a little. We haven't heard anything about Wild in like years.
Yeah, and Beyond Good and Evil 2 was talked about during last E3.
Yeah. 2. Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
The revenge.
And it's more popular.
The only thing about the only misgiving I have about Beyond Good and Evil is like I don't like the direction that they're going. Essentially, they just went in for mature, so they're like throwing F-bombs and all kinds of other shit in there. I'm like, I don't know about that one. And it's create your own character game.
Yeah, which is that already turns me off. Like, really?
Why?
Why would you like? Because the first one had.
Have you
like,
played the first Beyond
character.
Good and Evil?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah, so I'm like, so you're gonna get rid of a character and an actual story for some created character bullshit? Like, that's stupid.
I know, like what? Like they don't even see the way their way around it is that the fact that it's a prequel. I don't know
It seems to me like I don't know. It's not the creating a character that turns me off of it. It's the not using the characters from the original. But once you diverge from that, I unless you have a really just awesome story to tell with an awesome character, I'm not going to shit on personalization. If you're going to switch characters anyway, may as well let me make it. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I guess as long as the character actually has a voice, I guess that'll be acceptable. And there's still a story in there.
I'd prefer making my own character than just ham-fisting this new like fucking Crash Bandicoot reject character in there because they feel like they need a new protagonist. And I feel like maybe that'll focus on the narrative of choice a little bit more as opposed to the narrative of the backstory of a character. So I'm just saying thematically, and I don't have a problem with making your own character.
I don't know. I would like to know a little bit more about Jade.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. If you're already not playing Jade, like, well, what's at that point? Does it really matter whether they make a character or you make a character? You're not playing Jade. That's my point. I would rather them just.
I see what you're saying, but my point is like when I hear a created character, I think about just some blank slate character with no voice or any of that stuff. That would be like tragic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's things like Dark Souls have taught me to expect when you make a character, you don't necessarily expect the story to be from the character. You expect it to be from the environment.
Yeah, just different things. Because if they do it like Saints Row, where the character still talks and stuff, or like Mass Effect, then okay, fine, whatever. They're still a character.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking.
Not just an avatar.
I don't know. I feel like like you're not even for the Dark Souls games, you're not officially a part of any story. You're just a spectator.
And I'd be fine with that in Beyond Good and Evil too, because the story should be about Jade and the world. I'm not really invested in another character. So I would rather have. I feel like having a story more centered around the world than your character would be a more appropriate follow-up if you're not going to use the main characters. I feel like putting another character in the place of the first character is a further divergence from that. So if we're not going to focus on the characters that we know and love, let's at least focus on the world as opposed to a new character. And I feel like that's got a higher probability to happen in a character where you are a blank slate. So yeah, and maybe that's just me fanboying and being a little pissed that it's not about Jade. Because it's one of those like, well, fine. If it's not about them, then just tell me about the world, more about the world, and let me run into some of these characters. I don't want you to make some goofy ass new protagonist mascot that has some ham-fisted narrative that has very little.
Which they kind of already have.
I know, and that's why I'm saying like I feel like if they would have
all that other
protagonist,
stuff,
it would have gone just further down that route.
Yeah. All right. Move on here to his next question. What are your thoughts on the differences between how Microsoft and Sony designed their platforms for implementing HDR? Carlos, explain to the people what this is all about.
So what this article says is that there's this dev studio that's working on this new game called, what was that game called? Raiders of the Broken Planet. The studio is called Mercury Steams, and they're talking about HDR and how it's implemented on both PS4 and Xbox. And
Mercury Steam, for a little history, they did a certain game called Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Oh, God.
Oh, shit. So take this with a grain of salt, I guess. So they said that that the Xbox One X, you have to generate 2 images for HDR. Well, one for HDR, one for LDR. One is high dynamic range, and one, I guess, is low dynamic range. And it's regardless of whether the TV is compatible with HDR or not, they have to produce that HDR image. And the PS4 does not do that because apparently the PS4 can automatically detect whether the TV is HDR capable or not, and they just produce the image according to what the TV can do, whether it can do HDR or whether it's enabled or not. So it'll just produce that one HDR or non-HDR image. But for Xbox One X, it produces both HDR and LDR. To me, I'm kind of skeptical. I mean, I'm not skeptical about what he's saying about this. It could possibly be true, but what I'm skeptical about is why can't the development studio program their games to detect it and them being able to figure out whether HDR or not? Like, it seems like they're complaining about something that they could fix in the back end of their code. But that's just me. Yeah, maybe you're right. It's Mercury Steam. I'm going to keep my thoughts about them to myself. I don't know. It is interesting, though. Like, I remember some guys talking about it on Friday. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? You know, they're trying to use it as, you know, more fuel for the fanboy war and shit. But I'm like, whatever, you know. That whole PlayStation's better because it's easier to do HDR.
I mean, you know, there could just, yeah. I mean, you know, the thing is that in general, that's a lot of what Sony tends to use, though. Like, a lot of their devices tend to sense what what the television is doing or some other thing. So it's maybe something that they just do in general with a lot of their equipment. You know, a lot. It's funny because in a lot of ways, their console is built a lot like their Blu-ray drives, which do the same thing. Which you can tell if you're running certain options or something like that on there. I wouldn't know how they would able to implement this unless the Xbox X does not, or One X does not have the ability to sense that sort of data. Yeah, or it doesn't pick up data directly from the television.
It's weird. It's because you know, I have a 4K HDR TV, and when I plugged in my Xbox One X, it automatically detected. And it was like, oh, would you like to use this mode? Would you like to turn it on? Because we realized your TV. So if the console can do it, it's kind of stupid that the games can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The game can tell when you're doing it or not. Then why doesn't your code make it so you just produce one image when it tells you which one you're playing with? It seems kind of it does really seem like a flame bait kind of stuff. Yeah, so I wouldn't take this too seriously as far as it hampering with performance on video games and stuff like that. The parity it's pretty even at this point.
All right, fair enough. Moving on here to G Megaforce 123. So before his questions, he goes, "Happy 3rd anniversary."
Thank you.
I've been with you guys for 2 years now, and I look forward to many more years of entertaining and educational podcasts to come.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Way to go, guys. La caja. Oh, man. All right. So his first question
is that our catchphrase now?
It's mine, apparently, because I said it in one video, and then my man Lou made a fucking meme out of it, and now I'm like, you know what?
Dude, the way you said it was literally like, you know, like you were trying to teach somebody how to say it. It's like, la caja. You know, like, I'm like, all right.
Man, you know I do shit off the cuff, man. But people seem to like my craziness, you know.
Yeah, man. Teach them a little Spanish, because you know most of the country's gonna be Hispanic by the end of the century anyway, right?
Yeah, right. Shit. Oh, man. All right. First question: do you think? And let me finish this one, guys. Do you think the Switch will fizzle out after Super Mario Odyssey? So Nintendo did something right for a change this year by releasing some great games with the Switch. I didn't like Breath of the Wild personally, but I recognize it being decent, and I'm sure Super Mario will be amazing. Along with the Rabbids game, they've actually surprised me this year, but this parallels the Wii's situation a little too closely. Great Zelda launch game, a Mario and a Metroid a few months after, and then periods of long droughts in 2008, culminating in one of their worst E3s ever. So do you think Nintendo will be able to fill in the gaps this time? If so, with what? Great question.
I mean, I think they can. It looks like in general that they're kind of just spacing out a lot of their titles. Like they're giving you, they're not throwing. I mean, under normal circumstances, you launch a console. A lot you have like 4 or 5 launch games, but it looks like especially with theirs, they just kind of spread them out per few months, and then they kind of fill in the gaps with some of the independent games, and some of the kind of weird, kind of like out of nowhere games like fucking Bomberman,
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what they're probably going to continue to do. They're just going to kind of trickle stuff out,
Yeah, I mean it's a valid question because like what do they have after? But I will have to give Nintendo credit for at least releasing one AAA every month. That's more that can be said than other companies, and you know who I'm talking about, and it ain't Sony. So
well, at least this year.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah. I mean, and you also have to look at some of the games that they're releasing. You have a last generation. The big game for the Switch was a game built for their previous console.
Yeah.
Also, same thing with Mario Kart, a game that was built for their previous console. So they're breaking up the parts with games that people recognize from the last generation, from the last of their consoles.
The Wii parallel is that Twilight Princess got co-developed because they were budding on the next generation with GameCube. Same thing happened here. Zelda was being developed for Wii U. Switch was coming, and they had to co-develop it for both. With Mario Kart, that's just a remake, a redo. Well,
it's just a remake.
Splatoon.
It's not a remake; it's a remaster.
It's a remaster. As far as I'm concerned, Splatoon 2 is also a remaster. Shit ain't a sequel. And they don't have too much going on. And I don't know if you guys saw that article that the CEO of Pokemon Company thought that the Switch would be a failure.
Yeah, that's right.
So when all you guys bash me that I'm a hater, well, know that the CEO of Pokemon Company apparently also was a hater because he didn't think the Switch was going to do anything. And
the CEO of Pokemon Company
and now hurry up and make a game.
Yeah,
he's an established idiot though.
Oh, is he?
Okay, this is coming from the company that doesn't want to put Pokemon on mainline consoles because Pokemon means pocket monsters.
Yeah.
This is not a bright group of people. So I wouldn't really bank on their take on it.
Have you ever thought that also not putting it on a mainline console is a lot cheaper?
Yeah, that's also true.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's. I don't think that they've had the resources, and I think they've been afraid that they don't have the talent to back up a port for a mainline console. They've been making excuses for years. However, if we're talking about business sense, one of the biggest losses of revenue, in my opinion, is not capitalizing on the popularity of Pokemon and making it into a mainline console franchise. That would be literally printing money. We've agreed on this several times.
Yeah.
So you're talking about somebody who is criticizing a business whilst not being able to see the fact that they own a money printing factory and not taking advantage of that. I would not take business sense from this person for one goddamn minute.
Brett, you can copy and paste that for everything Nintendo does, pretty much. It's like
that's true. I mean, why haven't they licensed Zelda and Metroid out to make animes or movies? Because of Bob Hoskins? Is it all his fault?
Yeah, right.
Rest in peace.
But again, going back to the question here, you think the Switch will fizzle out in 2018?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, explain why.
Because they haven't been able to keep up their development cycle with how the console is doing. So they're spreading themselves thin because they're still trying to push 3DS. So they have a ton of stuff coming out for 3DS, and I noticed that you know, I get flyers from different companies like Atlas and stuff, just like you do, and they were like, okay, an Etrian Odyssey just came out, and they said the next one will be out for 3DS also. So these guys haven't even transitioned that game to 3DS. NIS America is still publishing games for 3DS. All these guys, so they haven't made that transition. So Nintendo's ingratiating indie guys to get on the platform, and they're getting a remake like a remaster like LA Noire from Rockstar. But at the same time, they hit the problem where you have that Switch tax, and that game is going to cost more than it did on the older systems, right? Because it's on a cart. So they're still running into these problems. The NAND flash is still an issue. So they still have production problems. I don't care what Reggie says. We don't live in a cartoon where you can just pull a lever and ramp up production, right? They keep saying that shit, and I'm like, I'm glad you live in a Warner Brothers cartoon, but in reality, you can't do that. So they're still going to have supply issues, regardless of what he says. And
I always think of the Star Wars line, "We'll double our efforts."
yeah, right. But you can't really do that because there's no supply to do it with. So there's that, and then there's just their development cycles haphazard. I mean, speaking of Mercury Steam, they just made this the Samus Returns, the one that's going to come out next week. So they did that, the port of a Metroid that's also on 3DS. They showed a logo for Metroid Prime, which will come at some point in time in the future. They didn't say when. And they don't really have anything else to promote besides Super Mario Odyssey. So, and that's what, in over 2 months it's going to launch, right? From now. So what's it? What do you have to look forward to between now and then?
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of nothing. And then after Mario, which I'm sure Mario will sell big because that's a game that a lot of people look forward to. It's a game that it's approachable, so a lot of people might have been waiting to buy a Switch to play that. They might invest in it, so that will be big. But then after that, they have I haven't heard anything else coming to follow that up, right? Except for indie titles. So again, the momentum is supposed to be organic, right? It's a snowball. You're supposed to roll the ball down a hill in a game. That's momentum. Momentum is like a jetpack that's out of fuel. It has burst and then it just falls and then picks back up and it falls. Like, that's not momentum. That is just staying afloat. So they have to get their act together and get their own titles to push their own hardware and not rely on indie titles, which I don't care what it is. Like, I could play Owlboy on Steam way cheaper than on the Switch. So why would I buy a Switch just to play those indie titles? The answer is I wouldn't. So they have to get their act together and give people more reasons to invest in this system, especially with pulse-less storage and all the other problems it has and the price point. Give people reasons to buy it. That's on their shoulders. That's not on anyone else's shoulders.
Yeah. Brett, I'm going to assume you have a retort to that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I disagree. I think that tell me another company that releases, well, I mean, how do I even put this? I think it's unreasonable to expect Nintendo to release an in-house mainline title every 2 to 4 months. Why? They have like 7 or 8 development studios. Why is that not reasonable? Because is that a reasonable schedule to put on Sony? I mean, does Sony come out with that many first-party exclusives that quickly? Sony only has like what, 2 development studios, and Microsoft has 1. I don't care about the number of development studios. I'm talking about the brand. I do. That if I have 8 studios and you say, well, can you come out with 4 games a year? I damn well should be able to. Or why do I have all these fucking studios? But we're not talking about investing in studios. We're talking about investing in a platform. So because the platform has more studios, they're able to produce more games. So I'm looking at simply as how many first-party games is Nintendo producing versus how many first-party games is Sony producing versus how many first-party games is Microsoft producing. And I see Nintendo doing fine with that. What I don't see is a whole lot of third-party games or a whole lot of third-party support, which has been classically Nintendo's problem, but which is where the other systems are pretty much riding through.
Right,
So,
which is why Sony and Microsoft don't need to put out that many or don't need to invest in studios, because other studios are investing in their platform. Because
exactly.
their platform has market share. If Nintendo had market share, they'd be fine. If they were getting you know, NBAs and Maddens and FIFAs and all that stuff like irregularly and you know, Ghost Recon and all this, sure, they'd be fine. But they're not. They're not getting any of those games. They're not getting Call of Duty at the end of the year. So it's up to them to carry their own momentum. And since they're known for their software, they damn well should pick up the pace and come up with shit at a reasonable clip.
I get what you're saying. That if they were getting the
clip.
bigger titles, if they were getting like, let's say, the Destiny and all the Call of Duties, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it. But since they're not gonna have those big titles, they need fillers. Yeah. I get that. Because this is what like we see with Destiny. That's what everyone's playing. So then at some point they need something, you know, just to go along. It's like, yeah, we don't have that, but we have this.
Yeah, and so then I'm not saying like I'm not saying that we live in a perfect world. I'm saying what I can realistically expect from Nintendo without a whole lot of third party support. Like I don't really feel like I can realistically expect many more quality first party games without them getting a whole lot more development studios. And you're asking them to carry their entire library on their back, which pretty much no other system does. And maybe that's
but
just that I have lower expectations.
Sony didn't start as a software developer.
Let him finish, Chris. Let him finish. Go ahead, Brett.
So maybe I just have lower expectations for Nintendo, and maybe this is where I come in again with my whole Nintendo is your second system. Nintendo isn't trying to keep the fast-paced momentum of Sony or Microsoft and all of their, you know, they're not playing in that tug of war. They're doing that jetpack thing on purpose because they're just trying to sell their products. They don't necessarily care about keeping this huge momentum going. As long as they keep producing units, they keep selling out, and every time they make a game, that game sells out too, and they make amiibos, and those amiibos sell out. But at the end of the day, they don't really have to worry as long as they're not being ousted from the market. And they've taken steps to make their product unique enough from the other products that they don't really have to worry about that, which is why I bring up all the time. Like, I think this is the only way that Nintendo has actually succeeded in their blue ocean strategy, in that they don't have to keep, you know, up with the other systems. They kind of expect you, at least this is the way I take it, they expect you to take a break for a while and play some PlayStation because they don't have the library to keep up on that. I don't think
that's a ridiculous assumption. And I'll tell you why that is. Because I sat in a meeting many years ago with Reggie and a bunch of people where he was telling us to our face that you have to marginalize your competitors on market share in order to gain dominance in the market. This is not a company that plays, oh, you take a break and play your PlayStation, play your Switch. No, this motherfucker was talking about taking the piss out of PSP and letting DS dominate, getting them out of the handheld market, period, altogether. These are not guys that play well with others.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a huge misconception that you're putting out there.
I'm not really understanding sure how they did oust the PSP from the market, and now they dominate all portable gaming.
No. That's there's the portable market is nearly freaking dead at this point because of mobile phones.
Keep saying this, if it were true that the Switch were just an underpowered console, it wouldn't be having the success that it does. That's just the blatant truth of it. The fact that it is a portable console has to have helped it sell some. You could not have just come out with a large box that you cannot, if the Switch weren't portable, if it were just a console box at the power that it is, even with the games that it has, it wouldn't be the success that it is. You have to give some of its credit due to the fact that it has a feature that the other systems do not.
Yeah, it plays exclusive Nintendo titles. That's its feature. It plays something that the others can't do. It can't. The other systems can't play Zelda, or else I wouldn't buy a Switch.
I guess all of my friends who have a Switch and play it mostly in portable mode, that's just the huge exception to the rule, and nobody actually cares.
That's their journey, Brett. I don't care how you want to play it. Tony plays it 100% on his TV. That's how he wants to roll. The fact is, he's playing something he can't play on his PlayStation or his Xbox or his PC, and that's a Zelda game or Mario game. They have exclusives that you can't play anywhere else. This is what people buy the system for. People didn't buy the system because they could take it with them. That's a paltry excuse. People bought it because they could play a Zelda or Mario. And the timing of Zelda, if you're going to say why didn't they buy it in the Wii U, because the Wii U was dead in the water, so they bought the next system over. That's why it sold well. And it'll continue to sell as long as they put out exclusives. This is my argument.
And I
If they
think that's
don't
focusing
have
on
the
only a
exclusives,
portion of the market.
if they don't put out their own exclusives, there's no reason to buy it. If I could get indies on other systems, then and I already own that system, then I don't need to waste $300 to buy the Switch.
But see, I disagree with
my
that.
argument.
If I can get an indie on any system and the Switch, I'm 100% of the time I'm going to buy it on the Switch. Because
why
would
would
I
you
not?
buy a Switch? Tell me why I should spend $300. It's not 1987. It's 20.
So you can take all your Steam games on the go with you without having to have a laptop, because it's the cheaper alternative to a laptop.
I work from home. Try again. Give me a reason.
Okay, just because you don't have that need doesn't mean that need doesn't exist in the market.
Sell him on it.
Give me a reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to take it out in the subway. Give me a reason.
For you, there is not one, but that doesn't, just because you don't have one doesn't mean that other people don't. My friend Erica, who's staying with me right now, has her Switch hooked up to my dock. She moves around a lot. She works long hours. She's not in one place at one time a lot. So console gaming hasn't really been
same
open
argument. All right, so give me a sample set of people that this would apply to who don't own a Switch, that you're going to say, oh, because you can take it with you. That's a reason to buy it.
A sample amount of, I'm not sure I follow.
So you said I'm not a good sample set. I'll say your friend Erica isn't a good sample set. So give me a sample set that this works in.
Anybody who wants to take games on the go.
Who's anybody?
Do you want me to name people, or do you want me to name? I don't understand what you're saying.
Get me some data. If you're going to make an assertion like that, then get me some data. Otherwise, I'm going to say that's a false assertion, because I could say, based on, I don't know, the modern economics of today, that fucking people can't afford to just throw $300 away to play a couple of Nintendo exclusives. And if you want me to pull up numbers on Thursday, I will. So if you're going to make that argument, pull up numbers on Thursday and prove me wrong.
I'm clearly not following. So you want me to prove that people are the reason that people are buying a Switch isn't because of first party titles, but because is of the portability of that? What kind of data am I even supposed to pull up?
I don't know, polls.
Yeah, anything. I'm sure there's polls out there that shows.
Yeah, find polls that's the reason that people are buying the Switch.
And you're going to take that as scientific data.
Why not? That's an honest answer. If you go and ask people who own the Switch, why did you buy this thing, and you give them choices, why isn't that? Like, and get a huge sample set. That's pretty. What, are they going to lie to you?
No, I mean, I'll get a straw poll. That just doesn't seem like very concrete data. That just seems.
Well, what would be concrete data to you?
In this instance, I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is personal experience, and that's not really a good analog.
But then we're going back and forth in circles. I'll tell you my personal experience. You tell me yours.
I'm not telling you about the personal experience of me. I'm telling you about the personal experience of
other
7
people
Switch owners that I know.
Okay, that's 7 people. I'll go out in the street and find 10 people. And
can I give my anecdotal evidence?
You guys are crazy, man.
Just a little breathing room. So I went to this country, right? It's called Japan. The Switch did really well in Japan, right? And I was there during the whole time, after it's released. I spent every day hours upon hours traveling, walking in the subway, on buses, on the airports, etc. Ask me how many Switches I saw in the wild.
How many Switches, man?
0. 42.
40.
I never saw any. This was during the weekends, during school days, in the mornings, in the afternoons, at night, at midnight. I went to cafes. I didn't see a single. And this obviously, I'm bringing it, since we're just doing anecdotal evidence stuff. Then I'll bring mine stuff. I didn't see any Switch. I saw 3DSs. I saw 1 Vita, and that's about it.
Bunch of cell phones, probably.
You saw a lot of mobile phones.
Yeah, everyone was on their phone.
Yeah, I wouldn't really expect to see a whole lot of those on the subway anyway, though.
But it's portable. Why wouldn't you?
Can I just
was that your argument?
Really quickly and get my evidence as well? Okay. I live in London. I've seen 3 Switches on the subway, just to contrast what Carl has said. Just because since we're here, just giving our evidence, and so therefore I present my evidence of London. 3 people with the Switch. No Vitas ever. I think one DS, but
What
What about
PSP?
3DSs?
What about PSP?
Geez, really? PSPs?
Yeah,
Yeah, at this point. But lots of phones. Lots of phones.
I'm talking about in general because like the handheld I've seen the most of, is PSPs easily.
No, most I've seen is technically is Switches. Like
Interesting.
I rarely see PSPs. Again, the Vita.
No, I'm talking about I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about in like the last 10 years.
That's what I mean. Like,
Really interesting.
yeah, I've never seen a PSP on the underground. I've seen the Vita, DDS, the DDS, the DS Switches, but never a PSP.
Interesting.
Again, lots of phones, lots of iPhones, but nothing else.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's move on here. This question is very interesting. So he goes, this is a funny one, by the way. How can Mario survive financially when Peach only pays him with cake and kisses on the cheek every time he saves her? Now that Nintendo
fucking royalty.
Yeah, well, hold on. Now that Nintendo has quietly retconned Mario, so he's no longer a plumber. How's he supposed to make money? I know there are coins spawning literally all over the place, but that doesn't seem to stop everyone from needing a job because coins spawn everywhere. That just means they are devalued by inflation.
I think he thought too hard about this. I don't know how the economics of the Mushroom Kingdom works, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't really need to work, or his job is just saving her.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I got an answer.
Oh,
There's something that he collects a lot. It makes him bigger. He sometimes consumes this.
It's
called mushrooms.
Yeah.
He sells them in the back alleys in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yo, he's like that dude in Yakuza Zero.
But wait a minute. Wouldn't that mean that he's killing the subject of the Mushroom Kingdom as well?
Probably.
You mean the ones trapped inside those boxes?
Yeah. Yeah, you people forget about that shit, but all the boxes and pipes and shit were also made of people from the Mushroom Kingdom.
Maybe when he defeats Bowser, he just takes all his shit and sells it.
Maybe like Peach just gives him like free room and board, It's like, oh, you keep saving me.
I always figured that. It's like, hey, I mean, I always thought that Mario was somehow stuck in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
And he's stuck in this world, and the only reason, Peach just gave him some room and board because it's like, oh well, you saved me like 20 fucking times or more. Or
maybe it was like the king of the Mushroom Kingdom. Like, listen, man, my daughter, she's kind of ditzy, man. She's always getting kidnapped. Listen, what you need to do is you're gonna guard her, right? I'm gonna feed you, give you room and board, even your stupid brother too, all right? Just make sure you get her back every time Bowser takes her, man. So yeah, I don't think he has to work. That is his job. His job is saving this bitch.
Why? There's the other question is like, who's the king of the Mushroom Kingdom?
Actually, I've been asking that for a while. Like, who is the king?
You meet him in Mario 2, don't you?
Mario 2
or Mario 3?
Mario Dream.
Yeah,
I thought it was Mario 3.
Yeah,
no, Mario 3 you still find Bowser. Mario 2 was a dream. That was King Wart or something. He was the bad guy.
Hey,
no, I'm saying in Mario 3, doesn't the king of the Mushroom Kingdom ask you to rescue his daughter?
Does he? We gotta look into that.
Wow, I don't even remember.
By the way, since he is a plumber, right, in trade, maybe he fixes the pipes, right?
Yeah.
Like listen, you can save my daughter and you fix those pipes. I'll give you a little extra coins, man.
Yeah. She gives him room and board. He fixes him and his brother fix the toilets.
Everybody wins,
Everybody wins. Hey, listen, Mario's had plenty of other jobs before being a plumber, so
yeah.
He was a zookeeper. He was a friggin' demolition man. So he's got lots of skills.
And a doctor. Don't forget that.
And a doctor.
He was a doctor. Yeah.
He's multifaceted, Mario.
Luigi has a lucrative ghost catching business.
Yeah, exactly. They make money, because think about it. Mario lives with his brother. They both make money, All right, so and I don't even know how like shit works in a mushroom. Can you exchange coins for goods? Is that how that thing works there?
Well, I mean, in some games,
do they even have an economy?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of economy does the Mushroom Kingdom have? I'm assuming it's a feudal economy. It's a kingdom.
Yeah, everybody lives in the castle, man. Like, there's not even
at least all the lords do. Then all the peasant mushrooms live outside the walls.
I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, they have mushrooms, but like, have you ever seen houses in the Mushroom Kingdom?
Yeah, there's houses in the Mushroom
Yeah,
Kingdom.
they have houses. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
at the beginning of Super Mario Galaxy, you can see the.
And in Super Mario 3, you could go
houses.
inside a house to like pick a power up and stuff.
Yeah,
I would
used to
I
go
would
to
say
Toad's house.
Yeah.
I would say for answers you should look to Super Mario RPG.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well,
That
I
probably
can't-
flushes
I
a lot of it
can't-
out.
I can't fully say Mario RPG because that game was also developed by Square, and it's that's not official Nintendo canon, and which
Yeah.
Nintendo has kind of
Or
said
you can
that
watch
it wasn't
the
canon.
cartoon.
I thought that it was canon.
Well,
No, it's not.
well, even Nintendo divests the sports games from everything else. Like if you try to pull canon from like Super Mario Strikers, they'll say, "Well, that doesn't connect to the main games." Neither does Mario Kart or Super Mario Baseball, Mario Tennis. None of those. Anything you get in those is not considered part of the main game, even though it's all Mario.
No, I just thought I remember reading somewhere that they considered Super Mario RPG part of the canon. I remember being surprised by it. I was like, really?
Yeah, well, they changed
Maybe
their
it
minds.
was. Maybe it was at one point.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's move on here. Next question from Black Metal Gamer. So his first one is: if Todd McFarlane could do a line of action figures on a game franchise cast of characters, what would you like to see him do?
He kind of already does do that, though.
But okay. So pick one that he doesn't do that you would like to see him do.
Officially, this is sad to say, but the new Todd McFarlane figures are shit.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Like if you go, those the ones that those Destiny figures that you've been seeing at the GameStop, those are fucking like an Assassin's Creed figures that came out pretty recently. They're all Todd McFarlane figures, and they're really kind of weak ass figures.
That's kind of crazy because they used to set like the standard for figures back in the day.
They did, but nowadays the figures do not look very good.
Can we answer this question as if they were still making Spawn quality figures?
Yes.
If they were making, if we're talking Todd McFarlane toys, like late
20
90s
years ago, yeah,
20 years, late 90s, where that era of them, that would have been like shit. Like, what if they could take something now? They already handled a lot of franchises. Like,
are they doing Metal Gear too?
No, they don't do Metal Gear.
Okay, so there you go. There's your answer.
I wouldn't have. They already did Metal Gear.
If they were on that, you just said they didn't.
They don't do Metal Gear now, but they did Metal Gear then.
If okay, because this is a hypothetical type of question now. If Todd McFarlane in 2017 was of the same quality that they were 20 years ago, what game franchise would you like to see them do? Man, it's Metal Gear. Come on.
Nah. I wouldn't have.
I mean, Resident Evil's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
okay,
I'll go with Resident Evil.
I'll go with Metal Gear then, since Manny doesn't want to say it.
Dude, I'd actually really like to see a Todd McFarlane take on the characters from Zelda.
Yeah, why not?
Because like I'd like how he usually adds like a little bit of a twist or a variant. Like his things weren't always exactly, I guess canonical, or it might be a bad word, but they weren't always exactly from the source. He would could make iterations or dark and twisted versions. I'd like to see, I'm glad that Breath of the Wild has kind of given us the more adult Link, but I'd still like to see like a mature Link variant. Like what Todd McFarlane's brain does with that world. I think could be fun.
Well, just kind of doing the which they haven't done that with video game franchises. Usually when they do the video game franchises, it's like, Mass Effect, and it looks like Mass Effect.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like
I'm
doing their kind of twisted fairy tale versions of stuff, like they did, like a long time ago, where it's like they took the Wizard of Oz and they made them these kind of gross, like.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Kal-El says Mega Man and Castlevania.
Ooh, those are good choices.
Yeah, those are good
I was
choices.
gonna say Metroid.
There you go.
Maximo.
They just did a this is not slightly unrelated, but they just did a Naruto figure, and they did one for Attack on Titan.
See, here's my question: if now they're just doing, if we're talking like just the straight up like the Destiny figures, where it's just a close recreation, what's the point of even bringing up them being Todd McFarlane figures?
What do you mean?
Well, I guess the McFarlane figures kind of, at least in my mind, being from, that definition from the late 90s, is that They're you know, it's kind of like what he did with Spawn, or you know, like with Wizard of Oz, like like Manny was saying, you know, putting a twist on it. If we're talking just strictly
the Dark series, you're talking about when he was switching them around and throwing them in different worlds, but he didn't do that for all of them.
No, I know. I'm saying, but like, so are we talking quality? Or are we talking approach? Because
quality.
These days, yeah. Well, these days the quality is kind of crap, and they don't do anything interesting to the approach. So I don't see how a McFarlane figure is much distinguishable from any other collectible figure. In fact,
to
some
be honest,
people make better quality ones.
That's true.
To be honest, Nika does a lot better job with any of their franchises. You know, and
Todd McFarlane figures are not what they used to be, man.
The hilarious thing is that Nika is built from a lot of former Todd McFarlane guys.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I guess, am I misreading this, or does the question just basically boil down to what do we want to see a cool figure made from?
Yeah, let's go for that, because I think, you know, Black Metal Gamer, with all respect, I think he's still thinking about Todd McFarlane toys the way they used to be, not the way they currently are, which isn't that good. So yeah, I guess what if you could have any company that's a really solid company make figures, who would it be and what franchise? Man, you're the toy guy. I don't know any of these companies.
I mean, there a lot of the thing about it is a lot of these companies do a lot of those figures. Like Figma is doing, like, they did Metal Gear figures. They did, like, you know, a bunch of, they're doing Bloodborne. They're doing Gravity Rush. You know,
where's my Dark Souls figures? God damn it!
There you go.
Oh, well, that's up to Namco.
I want a Solaire. Chris, tell me you don't want a Solaire figure.
Oh, hell yeah. Solaire's the best.
Well, you know, the things that they do make of Dark Souls is mostly statues, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, they should make some figures, man. That's a good call, Brett. Yo, Dark Souls, man.
There you go.
Do it.
I want patches. I want patches to perch on my desk.
Patches.
He
should have many faces of patches from every game.
He should also have the ability, if you like you squeeze his legs together, he smashes an anvil.
Oh no, that's Andre. Not Patches. Is the guy's always trying to scam you.
Oh, the spider head.
Yeah. Oh
yeah, he is that in Bloodborne. Yeah, but he's in every Dark Souls game. It's like, oh yeah, just go down that road, and then he like kicks you in a hole or closes a gate behind you.
Yeah, well, he's in Bloodborne.
Yeah, but he's a weird spider thing in Bloodborne.
Yeah, that was weird.
He kind of does the same thing, though.
No, that's really
that
was one of those they didn't want to bring over actual patches, because then they would lose rights to it by bringing into a Sony franchise. So it was an allusion to patches.
But wasn't Patches in the first one too? Like Demon Souls?
I think he's in Demon Souls.
Oh shit, is he?
Yeah, he kicks you in a hole just the same way as he does in Dark Souls.
Of course he does.
He's like, hey, look, there's jewels down there, and he punts you right in there as soon as you look.
Yeah, all right. Anybody else want to go with the action figure stuff? I'll take that as a no. So we'll move on here to the next question. By the way, Barry Byrne goes, Fisher Price Mother Russia bleeds figures.
Okay.
All right. And by the way, guys, we'll get to the PewDiePie thing. We'll get to it, you know. We'll get to it, you know. All right, next question here. Do you think and or prefer games to have a permanent set difficulty at the beginning, or should they have choice to change it on the fly?
I like games that get difficult as you play the game. I'm not a big fan, because the usual thing that happens with difficulty is that you put very hard difficulty, and all it means is just everybody has more energy than you.
Yeah, but he's talking about, do you prefer a game that just has, like, let's say you begin the game at normal difficulty, right? And then maybe later you want to change it to hard or easy, but it won't let you do that. Are you okay with games like that, or do you prefer games that let you change
most games let you. What game is he playing that doesn't let you?
No, most old school games weren't like that, you know. Yeah.
Older games, if you've already set down yourself down as easy.
Yeah, but that's older. I thought he's talking about something recently that's
no. Black Metal gamers are on our age, so he's thinking old games, you know.
Old games. They didn't allow you to do that. Like, you got in hard mode or normal mode. I mean, I put this up. Pretty much the adjustable, anytime difficulty kind of started 17 years ago. You know what I mean? Like around the time of God of War and the games.
God of War wasn't 17 years ago, man.
Something like that.
God of War was like 12 years ago, dude.
Early 2000. In other words, it started in the PlayStation era, where these they're kind of easy. They allowed you to kind of move around the difficulty, and obviously once you got to God of War, it was the continuation of that sort of stuff.
That's interesting because to me, I didn't really notice like, hey, change the difficulty anytime you want until like kind of in the middle of last generation. Before that, it was like you're locked to whatever you pick until the beginning.
No, God of War had that. God of War had it. In fact,
God of War did.
Yes, in fact, they make it a point to say, "Hey, you've died X amount of times.
Turn it to easy." Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you're because you're a man, you're like, "Fuck that shit."
Yeah, fuck you. The new Uncharted. That new Uncharted's doing because I'm playing it on that whatever the last difficulty. Crushing, and I've died a few times in one spot, and I was like, "Oh, do you want to make it easy?" I was like, "No."
You know what was funny about that? You Uncharted, if you're stuck on a puzzle for a while, it actually tells you want us to complete this shit for you. That's the Dean Takahashi level right there. You
just leave it alone; it'll play itself long enough.
Go ahead.
I like when they allow you to switch difficulties, but with the asterisk of if you switch to easy difficulty at any time, you don't get the trophy for beating it on medium difficulty.
Yeah. I mean, that happens anyway already.
No, that does happen. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I like that. Keep that. You should not be able to play a game through on easy and switch it to hard to get, a platinum or a gold trophy.
Yeah,
like that.
Totally. Yeah.
Fuck you. So,
the whole point. Yeah.
And I think that's a good balance. Like, there are times when, like, you're just getting your ass handed you in a video game. And it's like, well, I mean, we can make it easy, but then you can't say you actually beat it on medium. Even if you just do it for this battle and then put it back to medium, we'll know. Everyone,
motherfuckers.
I think it'd be interesting if a game implemented a system like Left 4 Dead, where the AI could kind of figure out your skill level. Like, you could still lose the trophies. Like, if you die 30 times, it's like, okay, you died too much, but it turns down the difficulty until you get to like Takahashi levels where it's like two guys and you could basically sneeze on them and they die.
Hellblade has a evolving scale like that too, where like the game just evolves depending on how you play, which I think is interesting. Give people choices, but if you're gonna change it, you ain't getting that trophy,
you know what I actually find hilarious is I was over the game that I've been playing has a really weird take on it. Since it's a fighting game, obviously it gets harder the higher level people go, but because it's kind of an open world RPG, the higher you level up your character, which has actual very little bearing on survivability, the harder the game gets. So there's a point in which, like, if you spend all 60 of your attribute points, all the NPCs go to level 60 and become like fighting computer level character level 10 every time, which those who play fighting games know you don't always want to fight a computer level 10. So there's a lot of people out there who will store their last 20 points because you've reached a point of diminishing returns and they don't want to make the AI harder. So that's an extreme example of you are locked into the difficulty and you don't even get to choose the difficulty. It just slowly ramps up, and by God, I hope you've learned the game by the time you hit level 60 because you're fighting level 10 computer opponents who can perfect parry and dodge in the frame of half a second and know all your moves by heart the minute you show up.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on this? What do you prefer? Lock difficulty or adjustable?
I like locked. I gotta say, on the back of what I just said, Dark Souls has it locked too. It just gets harder the more you beat it.
Yeah. I like the idea of a locked one that has a varying levels. In other words, it takes in the beginning, obviously it's a lot easier. It's letting you get used to your controls and stuff. But as the game goes on, it continues to ramp it up and take advantage of the things that you learned from the previous parts of the game. I feel like in general, I do feel like that difficulties tend to be a little bit they're built a little stupid because they're never, a lot of times the difficulty spikes in those versions of it tend to not be actually difficult. They just like the AI doesn't get any smarter. None of that stuff happens. It just means that everybody has more energy than you. And then you get punched in the face and you die.
Yeah. All right. I'll just go down the line here. Chris.
Oh no, I thought I gave my answer with the Left 4 Dead
All right.
fluid difficulty.
Carlos.
To me, it whatever the developers want the game to play like is fine with me because that's the experience they intend to make. I don't really want to create my own experiences. I want them to give me the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's what I call normal difficulty. You know, because easy is not really the intended difficulty, and hard isn't. It's normal. That's the intended one. They usually say that too. It's like this is the way it was intended to be played. I usually go for normal too. Brian, what do you say, man?
I like the idea of being able to like change it on the fly because it's a bit frustrating. We get like midway through a game and then you find out that the difficulty isn't what you'd like. So either you want it like harder or easier.
Yeah.
So having the ability to like change it makes sense. But I definitely do agree with Brett in the fact that all trophies and stuff like that that unlock to a difficulty should be void if you change said difficulty midway through.
Yeah,
because that's just right.
All right, Adam.
I think the same thing, like just changing it, like Call of Duty, for example, this mission based. So let's say you're playing on hardened and you're having trouble with one, then you can just switch it back to normal, get a feel for it, and then later on come back to it on hardened, But then it'll still count because you've now completed and you've upgraded to the next level. Then there's some games like The Last of Us where it just makes it harder as it goes along. Like that last chapter, man, what the fuck? It didn't matter. That shit was hard. Remember that?
I can I say that I think that locked difficulty is best with the idea of New Game Plus, as most of us we generally don't jump straight into hard difficulty. We play through the game and then if it's too easy or we want replayability, we put it into hard mode. Whereas the idea of New Game Plus kind of puts that carrot on a string and tends to lead players back into another playthrough where you can give them bonus content or bonus gear or whatnot, and encourages replayability much more than just being able to tick up. It's somehow less satisfying to just start the game over and tick the bar up than it is to play a New Game Plus run through.
Yeah, and shout out to the Throwdown Crickets as always. All right, let's move on here to my man Matthew Trujillo. All right, so he goes, I love the Throwdown. You guys are such a great panel. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. His first question is, actually, I think it's his only question. Okay, he goes, I have a feeling that PS5 will be backwards compatible with all previous PlayStation consoles. I believe Sony could have backwards compatibility now, but are waiting for beefier hardware to brute force PS3 games since the architecture was so different. With the way to do this, it will have maximum impact when they finally reveal PS5 and announce it as a legacy console. Do you guys think this will be one of the selling points for PS5 at the reveal event if this happens? Would definitely be a hell of a selling point if they can do it.
Let me answer your question with another question. They could do that, but why would they when they can just sell you those old legacy games?
Yep, there you go.
Yep, that's what they do. They sprinkle a little 4K on it, and then they repackage it. Like, there you go,
sprinkles of 4K.
I was watching. I get these emails from Nero. Remember Nero? Burning Software, Nero?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, they still make this shit? Because now no one's burning anything. And one of the things it's like, oh, your family videos, you got that choppy video? No problem. Just drag and drop with this 4K, and it upgrades all your, your pictures and videos up to 4K quality. I'm like, are you kidding me? What the hell is this shit? So that's why I'm saying just sprinkle some on, because I was like, Nero thinks it's that easy. Just sprinkle it on.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it. I mean, I don't know, because that architecture is so funky, But
it would require a lot of hardware, a lot of investment in hardware, and the only motivation or benefit would be a lack of software sales in the future. It would be paying somebody to shoot them in the foot. And you guys hear me talk a lot about Freakonomics. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do. But again, the motivations behind a company, there is no motivation for Sony to do this, none whatsoever. In fact, there's the antithesis of motivation for them to do this. So I would bet $100 with you right now that they will not do this.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that, Wood.
No, I mean, there's the things that we want them to do, and then there's the things that they'll actually do, and that's something
two
that
different
they will
things.
not actually do.
Now, if you were to flip it and say, "Well, Microsoft do that for the next one," I could see them pulling some shit like that.
Maybe, yeah, because they're already kind of
doing it with the backward compatible when they swore that the Xbox One couldn't do it. Remember? Yeah. Oh no, the tech is just. I'm sorry. It's just not something we can do.
But it also depends on the where they are as a company.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking. We've been talking about a lot that Microsoft does not have all those games that they should be having. So how do you fill in the space? You get a bunch of people to buy those old games. By the way, if you still own those old games, because all they're doing is just updating their store with a bunch of old stuff. They're only giving you the upgrade gimme, but really it's nothing.
They could use it as a tactic, and this is one of those, I'll loop back into motivation, like Xbox or Microsoft could be very motivated to do this. They could run the numbers and find out that by actually making their system a legacy system, they could get a higher market share, and that higher market share would produce more profit yielding than selling legacy games via software on a new system with less market share. So you could see their motivations actually change to align to that being beneficial to them. So I could absolutely see it.
But they're still selling legacy games.
They could be, or they could basically say we can trade in the entire idea of buying these legacy games, because let's be honest, how many physical copies of original Xbox games are still out there?
Yeah, that's how they're doing it, though.
Yeah,
but
we'll give people that option, and now we have a larger market share. So they could crunch the numbers and find out that the money that we're losing from software sales, we would gain more money by increased market share. That's motivation. That's what causes a company to do this kind of thing. Sony is not in the position where they're having that kind of pressure leveraged on them, where they are motivated to do that. Whereas Microsoft actually has a motive to do something like that possibly.
Now here's the thing: like if this situation somehow manages to incredibly hugely spike Xbox sales,
you'd see Sony follow.
Sony will follow right on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Totally. All right, man. Let's move on here to my man Wiz. So his first question is: over this week, there has been some confusion from the Xbox fan base about its criticisms over the last 4 years. They want to call other logical gamers hypocrites when asking, where are the games? They bring up that people were talking about resolution over games. Weren't people criticizing Xbox for not talking about games and also being more expensive but weaker?
Yes.
Yeah, they were.
Now you understand our frustration from 30 plus year old gamers who've seen this shit happen 5 times now.
Yeah, dude.
I know this shit is new to some people. It's not to us.
No, we keep talking about this shit. Basically, when you're on the losing side, you're gonna, act a victim like these guys are, right? Kind of like the PlayStation guys were last generation,
Wow. Have we been in this? Have we been in so long? We're like Highlander. We just see this shit happen. It's like, wow, this happened when I was in Scotland.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
Deja vu.
So yeah, I don't even know if we need to go any deeper into it. We've talked about this so many times already. The hypocrisy,
Yeah.
And the stupidity too.
And the fact
I need to say this. Okay, at the beginning of this gen, right? The ponies were like, "Oh, our system is 1080p. Yours is 900p, right? It's all it's all about power." Now those same guys are saying, "Oh, it's all about games. It's all about games." But flip it around. At the beginning of the gen, Xbox guys were like, "Oh, it's all about games. It's all about games." Now they're saying it's all about power. It's like,
what's the funny thing is? The funny thing is, there's a very small group of us in the middle that said Sony's leap to get to the high power first, as well as the ease of developing for their architecture, will make them the standard for which most people develop games, which will give them an advantage over the competing console. And that's exactly what happened. There is truth to that, but it's not just a numbers game. It's who can put out the numbers to be the standard first. You want to be the baseline. Being the baseline for developers is a great way to get your console ahead. And that's what Microsoft did last generation and Sony did this generation. The 360 beat that. That was the PS3's fatal flaw is the 360 beat it to market by such a wide margin that all the developers were already using it as the standard. It didn't matter that the PS3 had higher numbers when it came out. Microsoft already had that locked down, and you're seeing a repeat of that this generation. Back to the Highlander theme.
Yeah, we just keep seeing it, man. All right, let's move on. Oh, and the second one, this is a technical one. Can you clarify if resolution is included with tessellation, particle effects, anti-aliasing, etc. as graphics? So yeah, is resolution graphics? You know,
it depends on what he's saying. Is like, does tessellation render in higher pixel density on higher resolution monitors? Yes, that's why you kind of get this exponential growth of. Yeah, it's hard to run anti-aliasing. It takes this much power to run anti-aliasing. It takes this much power for particle effects and that, and then times that amount for your resolution. So each time you jump up resolution, each of these things takes exponentially more power because it's rendering more. Does that make sense?
Guys, so that makes sense. You're the technical guys here, man.
Oh,
yeah, Chris,
okay.
Brian, you know.
Well, to render bloom in a resolution of 640 is going to be significantly easier and requires significantly less processing power than rendering that same bloom in 4K, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because the difference, all these numbers like 1080p and 900p and 4K and 8K and 2K, all that means is is fill, right? So your screen has so many pixels on it. You just multiply two numbers. If you have a 1080p screen, multiply what is it, the ratio 1080 by what is it, 960? I don't remember. Carlos, do you remember what it is? What it is, because 4K is like 3960 by 2180, right? So you multiply those two numbers together.
1920 by 1080.
Okay, thank you. And so you multiply those two numbers together, you get the total number of pixels that you have to fill on your screen, right? So to say, like, to render one frame, you have to fill all those pixels at a certain amount of times a second, right? And then so what's added on there is what Brett's saying, like bloom effects and particle effects. So a GPU has to calculate all those things and then fill all those pixels as many times as it can a second, which is why you have cores, multiple cores. So when you hear NVIDIA talk about CUDA cores, those GPUs work by parallelism. They process a lot of things, the same thing at the same time, as many times as it can, to fill all the pixels on your screen as fast as possible. So when you're getting games that can run at 4K 60 frames a second, you need a tremendous amount of CUDA cores that can run very fast and have all the instruction sets to give you all those effects. So that's what that means. So everything you see in front of your face can be counted as graphics, but to understand the level of graphical detail and what's involved, you have to understand parallelism and instructions to process certain things, like between anti-aliasing, bloom effects, particle effects, and all that, tessellation, all that stuff, and then understand why resolution is referred to the way it's referred to. If a TV was advertised, you get 3960 by 2180 resolution, people would be like, what? So you get a nice buzz term like 4K.
Or a Super HD.
Or Ultra HD, yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
people can understand.
Also, in terms of, like, if we're talking about bottlenecking, especially on like PC graphics, resolution definitely counts as graphics because it's the amount of pixels that your computer is trying to render. So you know, if you have a 4K, it's going to be trying to render almost 4 times as many pixels at the same time as a 1080. So it's going to create an increase in the workload being offset to the hardware. And so that's why it is more difficult. It's not just blowing up an image to take up 4,000 pixels worth of space. It's rendering it 4,000 pixels worth of image, if that makes any sense. So
yes, and that's how the blowing up is essentially what checkerboarding does. It's not re-rendering anything. It's just blowing the whole image up. It's almost like taking your, you know, when you're in Photoshop and you're using the, you're upping, you know, you take the scale thing and just go, whoop, all right, there you go.
Yep, it's bigger now. So yeah, that's why when they say checkerboarding isn't quote unquote true 4K, it is broadcasting at 4,000 pixels, but it is not rendering at 4,000 pixels. And that's why you'll notice, even if you have a computer setup and you take a small monitor, just a standard crappy desktop monitor, and you get something with more like a 2,000 pixel count, you'll notice a drop in your frame rate, because even on the exact same settings, because your computer is now rendering more imagery.
Yeah. All right. Move on here to Brett's soapbox, man. All right. So this is an interesting question.
It's gained sentience.
It has, man. He was talking about this in the chat last week, but he already asked his 2 questions, so he can talk about it. But now it's his chance. So he goes, "What do you think hurts developers more, piracy or used game sales?" Yeah, we'll get to it. Some people argue that if someone pirates the game, then it's not really a lost sale, because that person who pirated the game could be doing it for multiple reasons, using the pirated copy as a demo, or because games could cost a lot more in their country. Meanwhile, the person who bought the game used was already interested in the game and bought it, but the developers never see that extra money because GameStop or any other store received a trade-in. Yeah. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, Adam, you already talked. So
yeah, because that they consider that as stealing the used game sales. I remember Cliffy B was saying that was the worst thing that could have ever happened to the industry. With GameStop having used games, because they don't get any of that money. That's all for the retailer. That's not for the publisher or the developers. They don't get any of that, so they hate it. That's why they're all for digital sales.
Yeah, I want to break this down a little bit. Who agrees with that sentiment?
I agree with it.
All right. Why is that, Chris?
Oh, because so what you're talking about is residual income. When someone buys a used game, that money goes to either the guy selling on eBay or a store like GameStop or something like that. It doesn't go back to the developer. So in essence, they're essentially losing a
potential customer. Yeah, you took a customer who would normally just go out and buy the new one and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I can buy the used one." And those stores, those GameStops, are actually pimping out their used ones before the new ones. We saw that whole issue, remember?
Yeah, whereas a pirated copy of a game, you might not. That has the potential to convert into an actual sale of a game. Now, if you say that person who pirated the game say, "Hey, I'm missing features, or I can't patch the game, so I can't get this thing, so I'll just buy an actual copy." He could buy a brand new copy, and then you get that income. It's not residual anymore. But with a used sale, you lose out on that, because the guy who buys a used copy of the game gets all the features that you can. He can buy DLC later, or he can patch the game and have the full version without paying anything into the developer or the publisher. So that's why I say that. That's why I agree with Adam.
All right. Anybody else agree with that? I'm going to take that as a no. So let's go on the flip side, right? Here's my thing. Okay, why was this never said about used CDs, used movies, used cars? You never hear that,
They actually did.
Am I wrong about that?
All of it was.
Did. Yeah, yep. It was all.
And how come I've only ever heard it?
What do you mean? That's why a lot of car developers like Toyota and all of them, they all have their own used trade-in markets now.
Yeah, remember the auto market made franchise laws to keep control of those things.
But my question is, like the only time I've ever really heard the big outrage is from game developers. I never really heard it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Movie studios or record companies complaining about.
Yes, they did.
In fact, are you kidding me?
They even tried to take
2600, baby. 2600.
They even tried to the movie companies even tried to take the television companies to court for showing their movies on their station.
Yeah,
this has all happened.
There was lawsuits like that. They tried to Blockbuster fought off lawsuit after lawsuit. Nintendo wasn't the only person who sued Blockbuster. Universal sued them. Like a bunch of people sued them because they figured the rental market was killing the movie theaters.
Shoot, I don't even know if you remember, Tony, but back in the day, VHS copies were expensive. It was like almost $100 to get one movie.
That expensive, yeah.
Yeah, and then next you get these rental stores coming and say, "Hey, don't worry, we got you. Give me $2." You get it for the night. What?
Okay, I got you, man. But I'm still on the other camp, because piracy is still theft, and I can't really endorse theft. You know, I understand that it may translate to itself, but at the end of the day, you're still a fucking thief. I can't endorse that shit.
So GameStop then are a bunch of thieves, and they have a bunch of stores that are in your face.
Am I defending GameStop? I'm not.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that they're just there, and it's easier, accessible right there, as opposed to someone pirating. Maybe they have to patch it. Maybe they need a modded system. There's other things into it, as opposed to just going into a mall. GameStop's right there. I'm like, oh, I want Destiny. Destiny Tuesday. Yeah, we got used copy instead of that. You can save like $15. Oh,
okay, but let me ask you this. Okay, so generally speaking, how many times do you think if a game is being sold used that it is being sold? I would say on average, if you take every new game, right, maybe half of them are sold, right? Like, so I would guess that most games aren't resold more than once.
Oh no, 2 or 3 times. Yeah, easy games. I remember it was like that for what's that one that gave you the easy 1,000 points? The one from Xbox.
Getting to that. But I think most games are generally only resold probably once, and that's taking into account some of the games that are never resold at all, and some of the games that are resold multiple times. So you can kind of infer a basic attach rate of, for each used game sold, it has to have been sold new at least once. Okay. And
yeah, at least once. That's right. Yeah.
Even if it's sold 2 or 3 times, you still come down to about between a 20 and 30% attach rate at buying the game new. Okay. So I'd like to see the statistics on what, I know a lot of people say, oh, I pirate games to try them out, or I pirate games because I want to give money to the developer, or I may get sick of it and, not want to go through the patching. I would like to see what the actual attach rate for that is. And if it is higher than that 20, 30, even possibly 50% that GameStop ends up doing. I'm not saying that GameStop or used game sales are a good thing, but like I said, for every used game sold, it was sold new at one point. So
that's until GameStop starts pulling that sneaky move where they literally open up a game and then put it out as a used game.
Yeah. But GameStop. We've talked about how fucked up they are.
They're still taking a new game off of the market and selling it. So the developers are still seeing money from the new game.
The same could be said if the game was posted online. Somebody most likely bought it, especially if it was like from an Xbox or a PS4. Yeah, but they bought it and ripped it.
Yeah, but you can then distribute it to thousands of people versus just the one other person who can have your disc physically.
If it was that easy. If it was that easy for someone just to pop it in and play, yes. But most of the time it's not. You need to get either a modded chip or a modded system, or you have to patch the game. You have to do work to it. It's not just like a plug and play type of thing.
Oh, I'm talking about computer piracy. Yeah, I'm talking about computer piracy. Gaming console piracy, as far as I'm concerned, is, look, if you want to mod your system and go through all those steps and not be able to go online and interact with other players because their monitoring will check you, and that's fine. It's the same thing I've had since the original Xbox. The same rules still apply. If you open it up, you put a mod chip in, you can burn games on it. You're not going to be able to get online. You're going to be missing features. There's still, and most of the people I knew with a modded Xbox still had a regular Xbox too. And if they're like, man, I want to play Halo, but I want to play it online, fine. There's still money getting returned in there. I'm talking more about computer piracy, where it's just very easy to download a program and be like, well, if I like it, I'll throw some money at the developers. And that happens sometimes, but not as often as people want to paint a picture. I mean, how many times
Steam changed that?
Well, even look at music. How many times have you downloaded a CD, been like, man, if I like it, I'll try to throw some money at an artist, and then you don't get a chance to, or
exactly.
Like how much of your actual CD library, music library that you own digitally, have you actually paid for versus how much have you intended to pay for? And I'm gonna guess you haven't probably paid for a whole lot of it. And this is all hypothetical. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody.
No, listen,
but that doesn't even help the artist. CD sales, that helps the record labels. That doesn't help the artist make their money from live shows and merch sales.
Yeah,
I just quickly want to say this, right? Because I'm not guilty about this shit. My boy Manny, you know who I'm talking about right now. He used to sell me bootleg PlayStation 2 games. Did I buy those games for real? No. That's lost sales for them. So that's how I see piracy. It's like you're stealing the money directly from the developers, whereas at least you sold one copy that eventually got sold as used. You know what I'm saying? That sale was still there,
Also, even as that had been brought up, that person may buy that game and then still buy the DLC.
Yeah.
Whereas piracy, you're going to just pirate the DLC and slide it in there, or you're going to download and pirate the complete edition that involves all the DLC. Whereas you're kind of locked out. And I realize on a certain level, I'm advocating DRM here. I do realize that. And I realize the complete irony of it.
The thing is that's the whole reason why a DRM and DLC in a sense has been created to not only get people to continuously buy these things, right? To also, if push comes to shove, you get sold a used game. Well, to get that, you still need to pay for that DLC that's coming.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that as long as they're not locking out original content. There's one more thing I want to say before we move on.
Yeah, no, I just actually, Brett, just hold on to this. This is an important one. He goes, what about countries where games are $100 and people get paid less than minimum wage and just want to try a game? Dude, I'm sorry, that is still theft. I'm sorry.
That was big in Brazil. They talked about that.
I understand that the games are just jacked up way too much in these countries, but it's still theft. You can't really dispute that point. Anyway, Brett, go ahead.
A real quick sidebar on that. Like, look, I'm maybe a terrible person here. If you can't afford a game and you really want to play it and you pirate it, it's not the end of the world. You're not a terrible person. Try and evangelize the game if it's a good game and help to drive sales for that game by good word of mouth. And don't hand your friends. Yeah, don't hand your friends a pirated copy. Encourage them to buy a copy. And if you're in an entire country where the income rate is that far off, then yes, I'm not going to judge you for pirating games. And I don't think that you're part of the big problem, because it's not like they're losing money in vast amounts. You wouldn't be able to buy this product to begin with. And so to a certain extent, you're just kind of creating goodwill for the product. But what I was going to say is, the one main reason why I favor used game sales over piracy is there are creative and very good ways to curb used game sales, mainly making people want to keep their game. It encourages people to make a better, longer-lasting product that you're not going to just finish and then toss out the door. The Order, for instance, is begging to be sold at GameStop. It is the kind of game designed to be rushed through and then sold 4 times. So if you make a game that doesn't have a lasting effect, or a game that you want to revisit, or doesn't have replayability, that's going to affect your sales, which gives you an incentive to make a game that holds water longer and stands up to the test of time. I would never sell my copy of Dark Souls. Never. God, no. I am keeping that shit forever. But if I bought the Order, would I plow, and when I heard how quick it was, would I plow through it as quickly as humanly possible to get it back to GameStop while it was still worth as much money as humanly possible, because I knew I was never going to pick it up again? Sure. Whose fault is that, though? In my opinion, that's the fault of the developers for not making a game that stands up and makes me want to keep it.
Manny,
I was going to say that's a way that I vote with my wallet, and I think that there is no equivalent on the piracy side. There is no way that you can make a game so good that people don't want to pirate it.
What was it you were saying?
Remember Jamal? Jamal's method, no matter how good the game was, this guy would buy just the day it would come out. We would go to midnight launch, and he would plow through it as fast as possible, so that way he can sell it back to GameStop to get top dollar, which was like $30-$35, and then just keep cycling. He just did not give a shit. So there are some people that just they don't care about keeping it. They want to eat it, get the experience, and then sell it.
I was one of those people. Well, for the most part, like 80% of the games, if it was I would drop like 6 hours into it right away, and I would pretty much know by that point whether I was probably going to be a lasting experience or not. If it wasn't, I'd plow through that and sell that shit back to GameStop. It allowed me to play constantly new games for like, $20 a piece. So it really wasn't that bad. Like, you had to buy in their system, you had to have the perks card and everything like that. And I realized I was feeding the beast. But when you have very little income and you want to kind of keep up on it, it provided you an opportunity. So it fed me, it sold the game, and then it probably, I like to think in my mind at least, that it let somebody else who couldn't afford a full price game buy that. Now, this was before GameStop doing their super dick practices of selling used games in front of new games and for only a few dollars cheaper to maximize their profit. They have definitely become and I can't believe I'm saying this, a worse company in the last 5 years. The 5 years ago, me would be shocked to hear that, but it's definitely gotten worse. But I can't condemn the entire practice of used game sales simply by what GameStop does as a shitty company. There have been great companies, Babbage's, EB Games, not Gamecode, fuck those guys. Funko Land, that actually made it worth it, and they had a very big price difference between new and used games. And I'm not sure if you guys remember, but those of you too young to remember this, games used to be very delicate. You could scratch them super easy. One of the big things about the new disc format when it came out is that they are so hard to scratch. You used to set a disc on top of another disc, it was fucking ruined. So the idea of selling games had a kind of a self-limiting factor of how long could this game last. God forbid you moved your PlayStation with the disc in it, because that thing was toast. So the quantity kind of inherently burned itself out. A game could only be sold a couple of times before it was pretty much unplayable, because somebody had abused it. There are ways that the system has worked before, not terribly. So you can't just look at GameStop and be like, this is what all used game sales is by nature, because they're a terrible fucking company.
Man.
If you look at it that way, it's
most of the competitors that you were just talking about.
Yeah, and that's the really unfortunate part. So this is me kind of living in the fantasy world of like, yes, I realize that GameStop is essentially the used game market now, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I don't think we need to condemn an entire practice just because of them. I would love to see a competitor come up, or at least some, another.
Best Buy tried, right? Can't you buy used at Best Buy?
You can actually, and Best Buy actually offers a really good reward program, very similar to Amazon Prime, on discounts on new games. So yeah, the Best Buy is actually doing a really good job of it, and I'm pretty sure they offer you really competitive prices for your games. I'm not sure about that, but the couple times I haven't sold that many games lately, but a couple times I've talked to them, I was kind of surprised by some of the prices that they were offering. And their used games, like, they're cheaper and they sell out pretty quick, and then they move back onto their own stock. So there's good. I guess what I'm saying is, in a very long-winded way, is there's bad and good about used game sales. And I feel that while there's bad and good about piracy, there's much less good that comes from piracy. And there's no incentive to make a better product to curb piracy. There is incentive to make a better product to curb used game sales. And at the end of the day, I've talked about it time and time again, incentive and motivation are the things that cause companies and people to act a certain way. And so I feel by building on incentive and motivation, we'll get a more quality product. And
it's essentially the idea of iTunes, kind of an idea, because like the way they kind of curbed that whole people stealing music, or not in curb it, but at least lessen the blow. They started selling them cheaper.
And I think that's what happened with Steam. They sold those games really cheap. Like, I don't need to pirate this shit, I'll just buy it.
Exactly. If you're saying that, getting, let's say for the sake of conversation, a new one of the Assassin's Creed games for $5, a lot of people, $5 is nothing.
Yeah, they'll buy it. Like, at this point, I'm gonna just say it. If you're pirating, you're being an asshole, because you could buy these games relatively cheap now on PC specifically. And if you're patient, you could get any of these games, at a reduced rate. So there's no point in pirating. You're just being an ass.
And also, places like Amazon have also offering new games for.
I don't think I've paid full price for any game this year, and I bought them all legally. Amazon, and I know Best Buy has.
You did it for Destiny.
Oh my God, Destiny. That was $99 I spent on this broken ass game, man.
Here's the thing. Destiny wants your money. They want your money.
Anyway, man, let's move on to the next question. It is about Destiny. A simple one.
Like jump in, cause I get my say.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what Brett's saying. I understand that, but at the same time, without the numbers to back it up, I think it's a bit unfair being cynical of people that pirate. Because on the one hand, Tony just said that he spent all that money on Destiny, but then on the flip side, people will turn around and say, hey, that's why they pirate, because these companies upsell their games that much, to the point where people are just like, are literally voting with the wallet and not spending money on a product. Like, there's also that flip side of people that you have to acknowledge as well. And in my opinion, they have a fair point. I mean, they're doing exactly what they should do as consumers, which is vote with their wallet. The fact that they're pirating, I feel, is a bit dumb. But then at the same time, you vote with your wallet. Like, if you don't believe a product deserves your money, then don't give it your money. I think that's fair.
Oh no, Brian, I completely agree with you. It is, if you don't like something, don't buy it. That's fine. It's the pirating part that I have a problem with.
I don't know. Brian, I agree with everything you just said, and I will only say the only reason that it's not a black and white issue, but we're looking for a black and white answer, so that's why I landed on that side. But yes, rebel pirating, fuck yeah. If somebody's like, I'm going to release a bullshit game that everybody's going to talk about and pretty much force you to buy it to be part of the main zeitgeist, like, go fuck yourself. I'll just pirate that shit and play it in 3 hours. This wasn't something I was going to play. Like, yeah, maybe I'm an asshole for that, but it is a great way. Like, yeah, it's the same thing as using ad blockers for sites. Be like, I want to read the story, but I'm not giving you my fucking money. Like, sure, if you are opposed to it and don't want somebody to give your money, yeah, vote with your wallet. And I've been guilty of the same thing. Like, I'm not going to go watch fucking Suicide Squad, but I will watch a copy that just happened to show up on my doorstep just so I know what people are talking about. I don't know how I got there. It must have fallen off the back of a truck and blown up by the wind.
All right, baby. Let's just move on, man, because I'm gonna try to be here for 3 hours. All right. The last question from Mr. Brett's Soapbox is: will you guys be doing the raid in Destiny 2? This is gonna go for Carlos and Adam, not me, because I can't play the fucking broken ass game.
And not me either.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, you guys, like Adam said, fuck this, I'm just playing GTA, and Carlos beat the game. And you guys are pretty much done with Destiny, aren't you?
I'll jump back in, but it's not like a big thing. It wasn't like a life changer for me. Remember, I talked about it. I was like, I'll get it because it's fun and shoot it, but it's not like, oh my God, I gotta play. No.
I mean,
and then it's kind of disheartening seeing all these people send me messages. Oh, look, I beat it. And I'm like, look at the campaign completion trophy is a common. It's like, how easy or how quick is this damn game? It's still the first week, and everyone's finishing it. They're like, all right, now what do you do? Well, now I have to grind. I have to grind all this stuff to get ready for the raid. And I'm like, like, really?
Double standard.
Is that what this is about? Like, that's what it's about. So it's like, oh yeah, just beating it, and then now it's like, just play to grind out, so that way you can get ready for the raids. That's what everyone keeps telling me. They're like, oh, it's not about the story. It's not about the story. I'm like, are you sure? Because everybody was bitching about the story last time, and now they put all this work into it, but it looks like they put in like 2 hours work, because then you can fly through it. I'm telling you, I played with a guy on Friday, and he had just started, and then this afternoon he sent me a message, yo, I'm done. I beat it. I was like, I don't believe this shit. How quick is this?
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos. What were you saying, man?
Yeah, the only reason I got the game was to play with you guys. So
yeah. That's the only reason I bought it, man.
That's it. It's a party game. That's all.
And I can't even play this shit,
Yeah, and when you release 2 10-year games within a 3-year time span,
they dropped that real quick, didn't they, boy? Remember, it's a 10-year experience. Like, oh, we got Destiny 2, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, the franchise is a 10-year experience.
Right.
Remember, it was supposed to be seasons.
This is a game, bro. I think, no, franchise now.
Man. You know what's funny is I was actually going to have to bring up sometime tonight an addendum for my positive review of Absolver, because it has been having server issues. Not that it's not a great game and I don't love it, but it definitely has been having some server issues this last week, where sometimes you can get on, sometimes you can't, sometimes it's a little janky. But with the crap fest that was the Destiny 2 release, I don't even feel the need to apologize anymore. I just want to point out the fact that at least it's up like 75% of the time, and it's run by a development team of 20 people and costs $30. What's your excuse, Destiny?
I know. Was Activision at the $1 billion mark for total Destiny development?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was $500 million for the first game, not to mention whatever they spent on that DLC. And then God knows what they spent on this game. Didn't even talk about it. But, I mean, Jesus, you can't even get that right. You spent $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Yeah. Like we always keep saying about Destiny, that thing was manufactured to make money. It wasn't manufactured because, it wasn't made because people, out of passion. It was just made to make money, you know?
Yeah.
Like we said a million times, man.
It's the McDonald's of video games.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. You know, to serve everybody, you know?
If you think about it, it's pretty fucking sad. Like, fucking Bungie left Microsoft because they were the Halo studio.
Yeah.
Now they're just gonna be the Destiny studio. Well, they left that situation to be the same thing with another game.
I think they're still the Halo studio. They just call it Destiny.
Right?
Oh, you know,
I was about to say that.
you know.
Yeah,
All right, man. Let's move on here. My man, All Day Digital. Both of these are time travel type questions, by the way.
Sweet.
The first one is, if you could go back in time, what game would you have demanded a refund for? For me, it would be Too Human. Oh, man. Too Human. Dennis Dyack, where you at, man?
Oh, man.
I know what game. If I could go back in time 1 week, I would stop myself from buying Destiny 2, son.
Mafia 3. Mafia 3 for me.
Brad, you didn't tell me the game was going to be broken.
No, I told you it was gonna be shit.
I don't know if it's shit. I liked what I played. I just can't play enough of it because it's fucking broken, you know?
Well,
Anyway.
I could have told you that. It's an MMO on release. No matter what anybody says, it's an MMO on release week. Have fun, everybody.
Hey, I played Destiny 1 and they give me those fucking problems, man. Anyway, Manny, what game would you here it's gonna be interesting for you because you don't make mistakes like that very often. Oh, actually, I know what game you're gonna pick.
It's going to be Castlevania Lord of Shadow.
Lords of Shadow.
And you want to know how I bought that. Okay, so I think I went up. There was another game that came out on around the same time as Castlevania Lords of Shadow, and I saw it out there, and I'm like, I'm seeing some pretty good things on there, but I don't know about this. I don't know. I guess I'll get it. I should have listened. to the reluctance force or whatever, the speed force or whatever you want to call it, that said no. You got to be careful about that one.
All right, Chris.
Oh, what game? What game would I refund? Because I've sold back very few games. The games I did. Yeah, I bought that game because I love Castlevania. I didn't know. I didn't know. How could any of us know? I'd say God of War Ascension. I'd be like,
God,
that was disappointing.
I got the same feeling off of that game too.
I just like, I'm done.
I got the same feeling off of that game too. I was like, I don't know about this one.
Yeah, that's great.
The God of War games were great, man, and that one was just ass. So
butt cheeks, man. Booty butt cheeks. All right, Carlos, man. What game?
I always come back to this game. I always mention it. It's Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero for the N64.
Yo,
I was expecting a freaking Mortal Kombat game, man. Maybe just like the protagonist was Sub-Zero and something. But no, man, it's some cheap ass like adventure type game. Like, no, it wasn't Mortal Kombat, man.
And you didn't even get any of the movies in that.
No,
because for the PlayStation, it had movies and live action movies that they would.
Yeah, the N64 had these little stills with text on it.
That's bad. All right, man. Brian, man.
I think the only one I think of is Watch Dogs, the first one.
Oh shit, that's a good one.
You know what? Yeah. I'm gonna say that too. I did make a mistake with Watch Dogs.
I wish I could say Watch Dogs, but Jagon bought it for me.
Oh, Jagon! Oh god! All right, man. Brett.
Metroid Other M.
Oh shit!
Man.
Oh man, I don't think we need to say why. And Adam, what about you?
Shit, there's a bunch. I would say WWE 15. That one was horrible because it only had like 30 wrestlers or some shit. It was like, what the hell is this? And they put in some new engine. Everything was super slow. It was a waste of money. That one sucked. Of course, Watch Dogs sucked. Mafia 3 sucked. Man, there's a bunch. And
all right, we'll leave it at there. We'll leave it there. And the next question is, if you could go back in time and pick a game at launch that you never got to play at that current time, what would it be? For me, it was BioShock. You know what? I'm gonna go with BioShock too, because when I played BioShock, the first one, it was like 5 years after it came out. I'm like, what's the big deal about this fucking game? Like, I totally didn't get it.
You would have noticed played it at launch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if I could go back in time, I would play that at launch so I could at least understand why everyone was so hyped for this game. You know, so that's my answer. BioShock 2. BioShock also. I guess, Manny, what about you?
A game that I could go back and play at launch. I mean, the thing is that I tend to buy the games at launch, which is weird. I mean, I've never had. You know what? I guess BioShock Infinite, but I feel like the point that I played BioShock Infinite,
it was still launch, man.
It was still close to launch, but I mean, here's the thing: I got that game. I don't know how I got it, but I think I got it for free from PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. Oh no, wait, no, you did play it later because I remember you like, hey, I want to talk about this game. It's like, Manny, we can't do a spoiler alert on that shit now.
Yeah,
man.
I can't talk about it. Yeah, so yeah, I got it on PlayStation Plus or something. I got it for really cheap, and I played it later. I wish I would have probably played it on there, but the one thing about it is that I played it. I was playing it so far in the future that nobody was talking about it, so there was no spoilers or anything.
So
it was a whole new experience.
That's awesome. All right, Chris.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Like I usually buy games at launch that I really want to play. I can't think of one that I missed out. Like, damn, I missed out on that experience. Because I would think a multiplayer game.
It's probably going to be most multiplayer. That is what I was going to think, because your single player experience doesn't really change that much after launch, but the multiplayer,
it would be a
changes drastically.
I don't know, Mag. I have no.
Okay, sure.
I'll just throw that in there.
Okay, Carlos, man.
Fuck, man, I don't know. Superman 64, just so I can shit on it.
Yeah, is all right.
Aquaman.
Yeah. Oh God, Aquaman. Brian.
I guess Beyond Good and Evil, since it's one of those games that I bought just thinking, it's a game that everyone has talked about. It probably won't be all that great. And then I played it, I'm like, it's actually a really good game. Lives up to the hype. I can see why people love this game. So it would be nice to be there with everyone else that was excited about it.
All right. By the way, I'm getting to interview. Some guy asked a question in Spanish. I think he's asking us about nuclear reaction shit. We're a video game podcast, bro. You know, hablamos de videojuego, man. Nuclear fission. What the fuck? All right. Brett, I guess you already were talking about online games. So which game would it be for you?
Definitely the original Dark Souls. I've said before, and I'll say it again, that I went countercurrent to the entire community on that one because I picked it up about 4, 5, 6 months or so after the release, where everybody had pretty much beaten through endgame and was now trolling backwards through the game to defeat noobs like me. Subsequently, I had a quite a bit easier time on every Souls game where I was actually playing with the community and got to participate in co-op as well as PvP. And the PvP wasn't as heavily one-sided. Now, the asterisk I'll put to that is Dark Souls 1 made me a man. That experience, while I would love to go back and play co-op with other players, that was the hardest thing. That was the hardest experience of my gaming life. And it wasn't because of the game itself. It was because of all the other players, and it happened to be at the point where I'm bored, the new DLC isn't out yet, I'm just going to murder noobs until that happened. And I just happened to be one of those noobs that was lining up to be murdered. So, and the mechanics of the game were way more unforgiving in the sense that just to see the summon signs, you had to open yourself up for invasion. So you're basically corpse dragging your hobbled ass onto a platform and being like, I don't know if I can make it past here. I'm beaten half to death. I got no health. I think I could use some help. And you pop on humanity, see no signs, and then immediately get invaded and try your damnedest not to die. So it was crippling, but it was also a good thing. So I would and would not go back and change it. I would just really love to play co-op alongside. Jolly Cooperation is my favorite part of those games. So I would have loved to be able to participate in that in the first game.
You wouldn't have wanted to play Demon Souls when it first came out?
I played Demon Souls fairly shortly after it first came out, and I didn't have an internet connection at the time. So the whole point of the game kind of flew over my head. I couldn't see the specters or the ghosts or the bloodstains, which in that game was punishing. You didn't know a giant boulder was going to crush you unless you could see that it had killed 5 other people there. So without an internet connection, the whole point of the game kind of flew over my head. So if they, I do want them, however, so like, yeah, it would have been a moot point because I couldn't have enjoyed it anyway. I do, however, want them to remaster Demon's Souls so that I can play it with a new group of people as intended.
Oh man,
Chris will be ready for that shit. I'll be the third time for you, right, Chris?
No, Demon's Souls hasn't been since PS3, man.
No. But I mean, that would be your third time playing through the whole game, right? Because I know you bought the Asian version, then you bought the American one. So if they remaster it, it'll be your third time, right?
I'll play it as many times as the fucking
yes.
Sprinkle some 4K Sassoon on that on PS5 and play that shit again.
All right, man. Adam, what about you?
Maybe World of Warcraft. Like, I just know so many people like got hooked on it, and I remember seeing that movie. What was that, Monster Camp? A documentary about it. It was so bad, and it's sad to see these people giving up their lives just to play World of Warcraft. And I'm like,
it was so good.
I sort of want to see why, because I remember I jumped on for a little bit, and I'm like, this game sucks, and then I deleted it. But yet people got super hooked, so I would just.
Yo, you dudes in the chat are crazy. They're speaking in crazy languages now, man.
Yo, Adam,
thank you, Kristen.
You could have you could have joined like 5, 6, 7 years after it came out, and it still would have been the same.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
we're still hooked up until that time.
I don't get it.
There was a distinct turning point in which they I think people refer to it as the difference between Warcraft and vanilla Warcraft, is when they changed a whole bunch of shit to make it accessible.
Graphics.
I remember somebody says, "Oh, I'm playing Panda World." I'm like, "Pandas? They put pandas in there?"
Yeah,
they put fucking pandas in it. They I think they changed the system because this was after my time. I think they changed the system to be more accessible because card games were real big, and so they wanted to kind of give you that card game rock paper scissors feeling, and they dumbed down everything.
You also got flying mounts like you can use.
Yeah, and that killed all open world PvP. Like half the fun was like, somebody might jump out of those bushes and fuck your world up at any minute. And
now everybody's flying over everything.
yeah. So that it would either be you're not going to run into somebody, or somebody's going to see you and then fly down and murder you. The game got ruined. So you're absolutely correct in the sense that it's not the same game that it was when people were quote unquote addicted to it.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the last two questions here. I actually did take these from the chat because this happened today. Very controversial, but gotta speak on it, man. Our boy PewDiePie, he really stepped in it this time, boy. So for you who don't know, he was doing a live stream, and I'm not gonna repeat it here, but he called somebody a stupid N-word with the ER at the end, and everybody lost their motherfucking shit.
Oh,
so,
damn!
He did. Oh man, I thought he did the other version.
No, did he land hard on the ER?
Oh, very hard. He goes, "Oh, look at this guy, you stupid. He's a stupid, He didn't say
right.
he didn't say nigga. He didn't say, oh, that's my nigga. No, he said the hard ER. I'm like, oh, and then and just to make it worse, after he's like, after he said, oh, what a stupid, N-word. And he's like, oh, well, I mean, he's an asshole. It's like, so you think black people are ass? Either way, it makes them look bad, It's like, I know, man. It's like, really, bro, what the fuck? And
man, that's 2 times this fool stepped in it, man.
Yeah. And everybody's going after him, obviously. And the first time, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna say, you guys know me. I've not liked PewDiePie, right? This guy is a fucking dumbass, right? Okay, I'm not saying that I honestly don't believe he's a racist, right? I just believe he's very fucking stupid, And I don't know what the context. I mean, I don't know what the N-word means over there in Sweden, but either way, bro, because I think he's like a little kid, like just saying a curse word to be edgy, right? So he's saying that word to be edgy. It's like, no, you look fucking dumb, bro. You look so stupid now. And granted, he doesn't give a fuck because he has millions and millions of dollars, but still. Like the fact that he just dropped it so casually like that, let's know he probably says that a lot. Probably him and his friends think it's just funny.
Well, I mean, the thing about I'm sure obviously in a place like where's he from?
Sweden.
I'm sure there's not a whole lot of black folks over there.
I don't have any over there. Let's just be real.
I don't think there's any over there, and I think that's probably what it is. I mean, over there they don't know what that is. So they're just using it. So I mean, to be honest, if he was if he really did understand the internet, he knows what the fuck is what. And there's certain things you don't fucking say, and that's one of them.
One of the interesting things is that he's been going through a lot of controversies, right?
Yeah.
This seems to be like, at least in the point in time in our history, is like this is like the worst thing you can do or you say, right?
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not good to say that anytime, but this point in history,
yeah, he's saying it like the slang term, like he's been listening to hip hop radio songs.
Like I said, he didn't say my nigga, he said the R-E-R, bro. You know,
okay. I want to say this, and I'll probably catch some heat for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, the power struggle that people talk about using the word retarded, I'm never going to buy into that. Retarded means mentally slowed or cognitively deficient.
Yes, that was a politically correct term for a long time.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I refuse to not use the word retarded when I think something has an intelligence below that of a functioning point. Like, that is the right way to use that word. You know, I love the Rick and Morty bit on it, where like it's just kind of become a power struggle. So in that instance, I think that it's all bullshit. This word, however, has a very real power struggle associated with it. It has been kind of revitalized as this new hateful thing. And look, here's the thing. Regardless of whether or not you think it's funny, regardless of whether or not you think it's okay, you need to realize that it is a power struggle from people who feel that they are superior or acting out of superiority. It is a negative thing to say, and you are not allowed to say it. Yeah. It is not like the word retarded, where you can point to the dictionary and be like, that's what it means. I'm sorry if you don't like the word, but I'm using it correctly. There is no correct use for this word. And especially, it's like, when I say like you never stick the ER, like, first of all, you don't jump the landing to begin with, but you definitely don't stick it with a hard ER. Like, that's just, you have to understand that whether or not you agree with this word represents a lot to people, and people take it very seriously. It's not a joking thing, and you don't have a right answer on your side. And again, I may be being an asshole by using the word retarded, and I'm sure I'm pissing people off by using it repeatedly, but I at least use it like it's intended, and I at least try and keep a very basic idea of a definition means this, and so to use the word accordingly. There is that high ground does not exist in this instance. You do not have anything to fall back on that says this is why I did this, other than I'm an asshole.
Yeah, hey Brett, I'm gonna read in between your words and say what you are not saying. PewDiePie is being fucking retarded. All right?
Thank you.
Oh my fucking God!
He's still making money. You know what's funny? Well, I'm not gonna even bring it up. But anybody that's watched the new American Horror Story, did anybody watch the first episode?
I never seen a single episode of that shit.
All right, there you go. Well, it doesn't matter if you've seen it or not, the other ones, because every season's a different story. But
yeah, but
it's enough. It's related.
I've been hearing some stuff going on around this season. What's the hot button issue about this new season?
It's people. It starts off with this one woman, and she's got phobias and stuff. And when Trump wins, she freaks out.
Oh God.
Everything spasses out, and she goes to the doctor, her shrink, and the shrink was like, hey, you just got to calm down, deal with this, not the end of the world, just focus on yourself. I can't do that. And then there's a bunch of other people that are coming out, and they are doing some fucked up shit, and they think they can get away with it now because they're like, nothing's going to happen. Trump, like he said, can shoot somebody in the street, and he won't lose any voters, so he'll make sure that I don't get in trouble for what I'm about to do.
So they've abandoned any pretense of allegory and are just going straight for a heavy-handed.
This one's called Cult. It's all about the formation of a cult. I stopped watching halfway through I just couldn't. I was like, they grabbed this one little kid and they had him watch like dark web stuff of murders and stuff. He was like 10 years old. It was horrible. I was like, I'm not gonna watch this shit.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, and there's also other stuff with this PewDiePie stuff. So because of that, the studio that makes Firewatch, they're gonna issue a DMCA on, because PewDiePie made a bunch of videos right on the game, so they're gonna issue DMCA to get them all flagged and shit taken down. So do you guys think that's correct? That's a correct response? Because some are saying that's borderline illegal. Because it's Fair Use Act or whatever.
No. If you don't want to support somebody in a way that they're using your product publicly, you should be able to stop that.
They did not create the game that he said that comment on.
They did create the game though.
Firewatch, the guys that made Firewatch.
The guys who made Firewatch, they don't want their.
No.
They did not make the game that he made the comment on.
No. But they're saying that because of what he said. Go ahead, Brian.
No, he's playing Battlegrounds, not Firewatch.
Yeah, so, but but the point is, they're going to have all the videos that he did on Firewatch pulled from his channel. Understand? And
then is that how the DMC works? Like, can they actually?
That's why I'm asking. That? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, can they legally do that? Because the Firewatch developer said not only are they going to do that, they're going to encourage all their other game developers to do the same thing to PewDiePie's video.
See,
so
I don't think
that.
Now that's an issue. Like, that's just I think is an abuse of power. Like, if they think they can do that, because I don't think that's one is very fair in the fact that just because he did a thing that they don't like, they want to pull down his content and actually abuse the mod to do so.
Are we talking about actually wiping out his old content, or
basically
to host it?
No, you flag him. You go, hey, listen, you're using this video against our wishes. We need you to pull it down.
Oh, okay. See, my bad. I thought we were talking about refusal to host. No, you shouldn't be able to pull down somebody's past content like that, but you should be able to refuse to give them a further platform.
Yeah. Also, and they admitted this too. Because the video that he did on Firewatch got 5 million views, they got some money off of that, right? So people are going, people are going like, wait, so you're condemning him for what he did? But going, but we're still keeping our money, you know?
Oh, what scumbags! That's literally being a scumbag. Honestly, like I'm sorry, but that's honestly being a scumbag. Like, so then they profit off his work, and then they take it down because they disagree with him. No, you don't get to have like your cake and eat it. I'm sorry. These guys can go to hell. I encourage people to pirate the game. The fucktards.
They're making themselves look all high and mighty, and yeah, like even if you think like this is the most atrocious thing someone can do, like where does the buck start? Like stop. Like if someone says Firewatch is trash, are they gonna like block them too? Like.
This screams virtue signaling to me. I think Brian hit the nail on the head.
100% is. It really is 100% them just saying, "Oh, he said a thing that we don't like. Let's now like do some stupid thing that will make us look even fucking dumber."
You can't allow the misuse of copyright law in this manner because it's a slippery slope. It'll allow any game developer to abuse it to the point where like anything they don't like, they'll pull your video down. And in this case, it's a complete improper use of flagging it for copyright material. This is not about him misusing copyright. This is about them not liking the content of what he said.
They're trying to break the system to their own ends.
Right, see, exactly. Okay. It's abuse. It's abuse of copyright law. So
yeah, just quickly, I need to say this. A copyright lawyer weighed in on this, and he's saying that not only do they not have a case in this, but the developer themselves actually said, I'm going to read exactly what the developer said. The question is, can I stream this game? Can I make money off these videos? Their response was, yes. We love that people stream and share their experiences in the game. You are free to monetize your videos as well.
So they have no case because if he takes them to court, they'll lose immediately on that statement.
Yeah, the only person that has the right to pull down this stuff would be the place that he is hosting those videos on. And even then, he still has the right to repost them anywhere else if he has copies of them. Like you cannot scrub the internet or reality of the past. It does not work, and it benefits.
What did he say? What did he say that pissed everybody off?
The hard
Have you not been paying attention?
I did, but you never said it. You just said that he was.
I'm not going to say that word on air, you fucker.
Wait, this is still you just cursed at me. You just cursed at me.
Yes, I did. You're trying to get me in trouble right now, bro.
Wait, we're still talking about the PewDiePie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we moved on.
No, we're still talking. You're playing GTA. You're not paying attention.
I thought we moved on because we already agreed that it was dumb.
No, it is dumb. I'm asking the second part. I'm asking the second part of the question. Can they legally have these videos pulled?
You know? No, I don't think they can. Even if they abuse the DMCA, he could fight it in court and he would win, most likely.
I hope he does. I hope it does like take them to court, and I want to see what happens.
Right, because this could be abused for any, not just him, but now he's opened up like a can of worms for any content creator. Any game content creator, if the Firewatch guys do this, right, and he doesn't fight back, then this will be a huge bad precedent for any other content creator.
Yeah.
And he would need to fight it to, like, yes, he's an idiot and he did something wrong, but if he allows the Firewatch guys to get away with this abuse of copyright law, it will be a bad precedent for every other streamer and copyright guy. It would be terrible.
Did he apologize or did he come out and explain himself?
No, he hasn't said anything. No.
Yeah, I haven't heard him say anything.
But yeah,
in general, he's a bit of a dope, and
he's a dummy. He's he's stupid. He's retarded. Let's just be honest here. Come on, man. All right. By the way, so the questions were asked by Hussein Unsal and Hearthstone King. Thank you for that. And also, I don't know. I want to give a quick shout out to Kristen, who's in the moderating for us. I don't know what the fuck is going on in this chat room time. There's a bunch of dudes just starting a bunch of shit, so she's blocking all of them. Sorry you have to go through that nonsense.
What's all of that?
They're writing a bunch of shit in weird languages. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Yeah, here's the thing. Every so often, the forces happen, and then a bunch of troll ass people just decide they're gonna just bust in and do some stupid shit.
I've never seen like these multilingual trolls though.
Yeah, like Alvin the Chipmunk, he's talking in Spanish, but he's being okay at least. But these other guys speaking in Korean and shit, like, what is wrong with you guys? Nobody can read that shit,
Well, I mean, has anybody even translated what the hell they're saying?
Who knows? It's probably it could be something lurid. Who knows?
We ain't got time for that.
Yeah, come on, get the fuck out of here, man. Speak, English podcast, man. English podcast. Fuck out of here.
Twitch actually has a thing that for that where you can block specific languages.
Yeah, and yes, Mark, we do have 45 people watching. Thank you all for joining us tonight, man.
All from Korea.
It's not that like we hate people for speaking a different language. Is that
listen,
they could be speaking like some shit that we might not be able to tell.
Yeah, and also let's just be honest that we're all from a bunch of different countries. We have English to at least unify what the fuck we're talking about. So please stick to English, man. That's all I'm asking. So
it would obviously it would help if they just decided to Google Translate it. Even if it is bad English, it's still good enough to sort of for people, at least for the rest of the people to understand.
Yeah. I'm glad that
use the common tongue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. English is the common tongue. Use that shit, please.
Queen speak.
All right, man. So a couple of things here before we wrap up. Interesting things. So I can finally talk about this shit. Okay, so and I'm just gonna do it linear term, right? So last month I got an email from Rolling Stone, out of all places. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So they told me that for Glixel, which is their video game arm, that they're going to start doing, they're recording a series based on video game heroes. And they wanted me to be on to talk about Kratos, God of War. I'm like, that's fantastic. I've been with this series forever. So I recorded that last month and they finally posted it over on their Facebook yesterday, right? So I know some of you guys have seen it. So really cool shit. It's funny because the video's only 6 minutes long. I haven't seen the whole thing, but Manny was telling me I actually get more airtime than Brian Crescente, which is crazy.
You do have the one thing about you are the first person that anyone hears in that thing.
I'm like, whoa, I'm the first guy.
Not David Jaffe, not Corey Barlog. You are the guy that we hear first. Number two is you show up more times than Brian Crescente, and I definitely think it's because you have the things that you said throughout your interview were a lot more interesting and quotable than what he had to say. Essentially, in fact, there was one instance where what you said essentially connected to something that David Jaffe said. Yeah. And I think a couple of people even asked, like, hey, did you guys plan that or anything? No,
I didn't talk to any of these guys. Everybody recorded their segments separately, and then the editing masters put it all together, Mm-hmm. And I guess I did a good enough job. I can't speak about it now, but I am going to go back on Tuesday to record another video game famous character because it's called Heroes and stuff, right? And I'm only doing stuff I'm interested in because I know they got upcoming ones for like some multiplayer games. I can't say, but I'm like, I'm not interested in that shit, but it's pretty cool. I'm like, I'm still tripping out that I'm on the same video with fucking Brian Crescente, who's a guy I look up to, and Corey Barlog and David Jaffe. pretty fucking crazy, you know.
Yeah.
I even dressed up. I put on a fucking like shirt and shit for it, you know, because the background is black, so they said, you know, don't wear black anything. I'm like, I got nothing but black, you know, so I had to buy a shirt and shit. But yeah, cool shit. So you're gonna see more of that. So right now it's over on Facebook. I'll link to it. You can check that out. And I think later on they're gonna put it over on YouTube, but they want to grow their YouTube because Glixel is still growing and stuff. So they want to grow that Facebook first. So check that out, please. Very cool. Talking about God of War and Kratos, man. Next up here, Ask TK, for you guys who don't know. So Coalition has this new series inspired by this podcast, Throwdown Your Questions, where basically one member of the Coalition, you know, they get into the hot seat, as Gary calls it, and they answer a bunch of fan questions, right? So the first episode was Gary. It was exclusive to the patrons, right? Over Coalition, and then like after a week or two, they made it available to everybody. So I did my episode. It's available now to everybody that subscribes to the Coalition Patreon. It was a fun episode. The only thing, and I said this during the recording, and I'll say it now, right? I was a little bit annoyed that half the questions were troll questions. I'm like, come on, guys, really? You hitting me with this dumb shit? But to my credit, I turned those fucking like fake questions into real answers, you know? Wait, mate, were you gonna say, you know, it's what?
Well, you know why? Because they want to see you fucking react, man. They want to see you get crazy.
Yeah, like one guy asked, like, if X is PlayStation and Y is Xbox, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? I'm like, what the fuck? You know, crazy.
Everybody
shit.
knows that.
Yeah, you know, my answer, I was like, 1, a 2, a 3, a 3. All right, so yeah, that episode will be, you know, again, if you're subscribed to the Coalition Patreon, you can check that out now. And if not, just wait a couple weeks, you know, that'll be available to everybody. I'm probably going to do a round 2 when everybody's had their turn, you know. Also, we're going to have episode 150 of both, you know, shows coming up this week. And Riku's son is going to be joining us, man.
Whoa.
You know, the only one. Riku's son won. Also, I want to give a shout out to my man Foxy UK Games. I was on his podcast earlier today. You know, we were shooting the shit. Go check that out. It's already up on the Throwdown crossover playlist. Go check that out there. Good stuff with the fellas. And also, again, we're gonna keep doing this. Twitch, man, follow us on Twitch now, people. Throwdown Show, man, because YouTube's gonna burn down one day, man. Everybody's getting flagged. It's gonna be our turn eventually, you know.
Yeah, they're gonna flag us right away, despite our warnings that we have all over all over our content. But you know,
yeah, what can you do? So expect
more,
we'll expect some more gameplay shit from us. For the foreseeable future, nothing's gonna change. And unless they completely erase Throwdown channel, we'll still be on YouTube. We're not going anywhere. It's just
we're just expanding the show onto this other stuff just to kind of preempt maybe something that may happen. And it's even better because you get to watch us in less of a delay. You get to watch us. It won't be a less of a delay. It'll be actually around the same amount. But you get to see us on there as well as all, you know, some of the additional game content that we're doing, because we're putting together a lot of the teams that we're doing. We did the first test of that with Grand Theft Auto, which we'll probably continue to do. I'm gonna, you know, hook up my PlayStation to start doing some Twitch stuff too, which I did do a stream immediately after Tony and Carlos did their stream. So for Guilty Gear Exard Revelator 2.
Yeah, I guess I should slightly apologize to everyone for bombarding you with all these test videos, but we gotta test them. But Manny, you didn't do it. You put up a real video. That Sunday.
I just you know, started up the PlayStation because I feel like it's a fun little thing to do right before the show, a little calm before the storm. You know, around you know in the, you know, maybe a few hours before the show starts. You know, let's play a little game. You know, I need to get away from these fucking screens.
You know,
and I need to get away from these fucking screens and sit in front of another fucking screen in my living room.
Yes. It's insane, man. All right, so that's going to do it for us. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us a questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or over on the Coalition, and we'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco. And tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Brett Murdoch.
See you, everybody.
Adam Vale.
Keep watching Lucha Underground and watch that new show, The Deuce, HBO.
And Brian Majoma.
If a white person uses the word nigger and no one's around to hear it, does someone get offended? Yes or no?
That's a good question. And for you guys listening who don't know Brian is black, he can say it. All right, man. We'll see y'all next time, man. Later.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Deuces.